Every path to greatness starts somewhere.
The silver trophy to the Golden Knights.
And once in a while, the starting point itself can be part of the story. So flash back exactly 20 years in a city where a lot of people come to chase their dreams. And a night when some of the greatest hockey careers of this century all began together, including mine.
We'd like to select goaltender Marc-Andre Fleury.
This is a goaltender people talk about as being a legitimate franchise player.
Our draft class has won pretty much every award they give out in this league. 11 guys have become captains, and to this day, 2003 remains one of the best drafts in the entire history of the NHL. There's no rhyme or reason why some drafts have more talent than others. But there's no way to deny the excitement when one of those years comes around. Like the night we came into the league. Or tonight, right here in the same place. Music City. It starts with this kid, a natural with no limits. Maybe the next name people are gonna know in hockey and far beyond. But there's plenty more firepower on the ice behind him. A lot more guys who can make this draft the next one they talk about for years to come.
Ryan Leonard cutting his space, wrist shot, score! The golden goal!
Just like me, and Patrice, and Corey, Ryan, and Brent, and all the rest. This is where they're starting their path. Tonight. Pretty good story, eh? Boys? Greatness awaits. Welcome to the 2023 NHL Draft in Nashville.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Nashville for the 2023 Upper Deck NHL Draft, rounds 2 through 7. This is Music City, the place where people come to chase the dream of making it big on country music's biggest stage. Only this stage is a little bit different, but those dreams remain the same. For these kids, it's the NHL, and today is one step closer to that goal. Connor Bedard took that step yesterday. That was a given. What happens today? We don't know. We'll find out over the course of this afternoon. The Anaheim Ducks will be the first team on the clock with pick number 33 as they mull over their options right there. The floor is packed. The teams are set, and so are we inside Bridgestone Arena. Welcome to Nashville, and welcome upstairs. Here with our guys, Jason, Reeder, and Sam. I'm Jameson. Welcome to Nashville. What a town it is. I'm just a little disappointed because I was told Reeder was showing up in a cowboy hat and a bolo tie today. Not the case.
No, I couldn't get my hat through a security, so they had to hold it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, that was me.
All right, we digress. We move on. Jason, day 2, what is the strategy here for those 32 teams?
Nothing changes, fellas. Stick to your list. You've been working all season long. You've built it out to this point in time. There wasn't a single trade in the first round, which is an anomaly. I haven't, in my history in the game, ever seen no movement in the first round picks or players in and out or otherwise. Stick to your list. Nothing changes. As you get deeper into the draft, your general manager might tap you on the shoulder and say, we need to fill a need. Be prepared for that tap and just roll on.
All right, still plenty of great players available. After day number 1, and you just think back to the last time the NHL Draft was held here in Nashville, 2003. Look at some of those names. Future Hall of Famers, Patrice Bergeron, Shea Weber, Corey Crawford, David Backes. Loved the flow back then. Joe Pavelski, round number 7, and Dustin Byfuglien in round number 8 when we had 8 rounds. We don't have 8 rounds. We have 7. Sam, round 2. Who's some of the guys best available here coming up?
You know, JB talked about there being no trades because people were really happy with the players they were getting in round 1, and I still do believe that that exists well into round number 2. Here's a couple of guys I'm keeping my eye on. Riley Heidt of the Prince George Cougars, over 90 points this year. Nick Lardis, a new man after traded from Peterborough to Hamilton in the Ontario Hockey League. Gavin Brindley, what kind of recommendations would he have gotten from Adam Fantilli, his line mate at Michigan? Casper Halton and shoots it hard, big body guy. Lucas Dragicevic, are you kidding me? 75 points as a 17-year-old from the back end. And Etienne Morin, smooth skater out of the Moncton Wildcats program. These guys were ranked up to 39 in terms of their ranking for NHL Network. Let's see what happens today, but I think a lot of them we'll see going early in this round, too.
All right, Reader, how about a prospect to watch?
Oh, it's a deep draft. Sammy, you said it. There's a group of players who could have easily gone in the first round. I really thought that Andrew Crystal from the Kelowna Rockets was going to go in the first round. 1.76 points per game in the WHL. That was third in the WHL. 39 goals in 54 games. Come on, guys. You go on a goal scorer. Why wouldn't you take Andrew Crystal? That's why I expected Crystal to be going in the first round. I kind of had him at number 22. Expected that he would have gone. I would expect he's going to go early in the second round. Goal scorers are what the game's all about, and Andrew Crystal scores goals.
All right, we'll look forward to that. We're up here, the better-looking half of our coverage, down on the draft floor this morning. We've got Jackie Redmond, EJ Raddick, and Mike Kelly down there as we'll check in with them throughout the afternoon. Jackie, good morning. What's the word down there on the floor?
Well, good morning. I hate to break it to you guys, but no cowboy hats down here either. The disappointment is off the charts for me there. I thought at least one of us would bring some cowboy swag to the side set, but no such luck. Either way, it is day number 2. I've said over and over how much I love the entirety of this event, and we're going to do some great interviews here up on the set. And Mike, you're joining us this year on the side set, and you do great work with Sportlogic and for the NHL Network as well. So I want to know how these projections and rankings and lists, as they say, I mean, we heard Jason, don't stray from the list. Well, when it comes to projections, we almost always have to stray from the list. But how do you put it together?
Yeah, so for us, analytics have come a long way, especially in recent years, and it's something that every organization is using. Majority of the NHL teams use our draft package as well. So what we try to do, first of all, and you'll take a look at an example of some of the information that we're looking at and providing. Danny Nelson being an example, as somebody that we had 27th overall. I'm sure he'll go in the second round here today, but a trend line of where this player has performed relative to the other players in the draft class. So you see that Danny Nelson had a good, strong finish to the season. You see some strengths, some development areas, comparables as well. And the important thing for us to do, number one, we're tracking all the games that these players are playing with their clubs, but also all their tournament games as well. And beyond that, then you're looking at trying to adjust for different league strengths. Some guys may play in the Czech League, some guys in the Canadian Hockey League. You're adjusting for league strengths, trying to make this as apples to apples as you can so that you can evaluate the players fairly and then try to project them. So this is a piece of the puzzle that all teams in the NHL are using as a part of their process.
We got charts today, baby.
Yes, we
got
do.
charts. Eej, as we get ready for round 2 here, who are maybe a couple of the teams that intrigue you?
Well, I think the Philadelphia Flyers are intriguing to me based on what they did last night. I mean, it's a new era in Philly, right? You have Danny Briere and Keith Jones at the helm now. They went out and made a bold strike to get Matvei Michkov. They kind of had a meeting with him in Philly, kind of stealth. And they end up picking him at 7. They gave Oliver Bonk at, a little later, 22nd, a defenseman. So I'll be keeping an eye on them. No picks in the second round, but they've got 2 picks in the third round. And the Chicago Blackhawks, the reimagining of the Chicago Blackhawks continues. And you can see here in the second round, they've got 4 picks in the second round, 2 more in the third. And Kyle Davidson continues to do his business, and he did a little bit more today.
Well, we didn't have any deals over the duration of round 1 last night here at Bridgestone Arena, but we've already got some news as we get ready for round number 2, and that's where we turn to our NHL Network insider, Elliot Friedman, with more on what's going on with the Chicago Blackhawks.
Yes, Jackie, something for me to do finally after a quiet first round, no trades for the first time in 16 years. The Blackhawks have acquired another second round pick, but it's in 2026. Josh Bailey, they take from the Islanders. The Islanders incentivize it with the pick, and in return, future considerations. Probably never see them. It's a salary dump. Bailey didn't play at the end of last year. The Islanders and Bailey knew that they had to move on. A fresh start. He gets it in Chicago. And one thing about the Islanders now, they have $10 million in cap space. So with some free agents to deal with, including Scott Mayfield, I'm very curious if this gives them the flexibility to get some business done that they otherwise couldn't do. Jameson?
All right, Elliot, thank you very much. I was told we didn't have to pay Elliot if he didn't break a trade. Well, we broke the budget here on day 2 for the NHL Network and across Sportsnet and the world. We're going to take a quick timeout. When we come back, we'll get it going with round 2. The Anaheim Ducks will officially be on the clock.
The 2023 Upper Deck NHL Draft is here. Scan the QR code on your screen to collect a piece of history with this free digital card set featuring some of your favorite #1 draft picks. Get yours today, only on UpperDeckEPAC.com.
Welcome back to the 2023 Upper Deck NHL Draft, rounds 2 through 7. Deputy Commissioner Bill Daly on the stage right now, opening up officially day number 2 and officially putting the Anaheim Ducks on the clock. They have 3 minutes to make the pick in round number 2. Reader, you surprised with the way Anaheim went in round number 1? They had the second overall pick, and they did not choose Adam Fantilli. They went Leo Carlsson.
Maybe a little bit surprised, but on the other hand, I'd heard a lot of rumblings that Leo Carlsson was Pat Verbeek's guy, and that was the guy that they were going to take.
From
and of course,
Seattle of the WHL, Nico Majadovic.
And I'm a selected Nico Majadovic from Seattle of the Western League.
Okay, Nico Majadovic. Mike Kelly, a left winger out of Seattle. What do we know about him? Okay, well, Mike Kelly has already dropped out, trying to get him dialed back in. But Jason.
Yeah, so with Nico, what they're going to be getting here, guys, is a player to play on the flank with Carlson. I mean, that's where it starts, right? Good size. His mechanics skating between the paint there, the blue lines on transition. He's got a ways to go. So his mechanics are, but he goes to the hard areas, 30 goal scorer, cleans up the business around the crease. Important.
You know, one thing really important for me about Miatovic, he's the guy that in Seattle, Matt O'Dette relied on in every single situation. They had a team full of rock stars, NHL draft picks, but Miatovic was out there in the important matchups, taking some of the tough draws. I love this player. I love the size, and I love the fact that here he is as the first guy on day number 2 from the Seattle Thunderbirds.
Okay, the Columbus Blue Jackets selecting their pick, Gavin Brindley. Jason, a center out of the University of Michigan.
Just another Go Blue going down to Ohio State territory. I don't know how they're going to adjust all this, but this kid is outstanding. Plays really fast, all situations, dangerous off the rush, goes to the hard areas. He's a pit bull, guys. He's not tall, but he's built like a fire hydrant.
Well, how about this? Instant chemistry.
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry, Sammy, to interrupt you. That tip that was just shown there, that's just an unbelievable tool in the toolkit. Like that, turning your blade up, reader, instead of tipping a puck down, tipping it upwards. Exceptional hand-eye coordination.
Thought process in game 2 is something that Brindley really has, and that's a perfect example of it. Be able to reverse the stick in game at game speed.
Jason, how about Adam Guyan, our first goaltender off the board here to the Chicago Blackhawks?
Think Ben Bishop, guys, giant. This kid's 6'7". He's fluid in the crease too, so he boxes up well. He plays between his posts. No unnecessary movements. Eats pucks from long range, so his rebound control is on point. Big guys, though, when they do get moving laterally off speed, if you start getting moved out. Pardon me, this is Guyan. This isn't Hrabel. They went to Guyan. Sorry, we didn't get the screen there. So, hey, listen. Sorry, my bad, Guyan. Slovakia at the World Juniors, super athletic goaltender. Chippewa in the North American League, Green Bay in the USHL, highly competitive. This is an athletic butterfly-style goalie.
Crazy story how he made it, though, all the way to Slovakia and ends up playing really well. He wasn't really on the radar at the start of the year, but a lone situation gets him to the USHL, of course, gets him to the World Juniors. He becomes a starter and a rock star from there.
All right, so the San Jose Sharks are making their next selection. Sam, Casper.
Well, Kasper Halttunen's a big guy. When we watched him at the Hlinka Gretzky, he was a guy who was playing the wing but took a lot of important draws and was absolutely dominant in the face-off circle, but a guy who prefers to play the wing. So when it comes to Halttunen, one of the Finnish players that had a real good under-18 tournament, and Halttunen's a guy that adds some size, he adds some shooting ability. Those are his 2 main assets.
Go ahead, Tampa.
Okay, so Tampa Bay making their pick.
Ethan Gauthier from Sherbrooke.
Ethan Gauthier, right winger from Sherbrooke out of the QMJHL. He was named the 2022-2023 Michael Bossy Trophy winner. That's the Q's top professional prospect. So this kid, highly touted and a highly offensive player.
Yeah, this guy's a little bit of a Swiss Army knife for me, to be honest with you. So he does a lot of things. He's going to play with a little bit of bump to his game. Some transition pace, some deception off the rush. All situations, coming off the flank again on the power play. Right shot, opens up from the weak side. Pedigree too, right, Sammy?
Yeah, his dad, Denny, a former NHL player, of course, for a long time. assistant coach with the Drummondville Voltigeurs, and a guy that many people had predicted to go in round number 1. But challenged by his brother Caden, who he was teammates with in Sherbrooke. Good season for Ethan Gauthier.
The Arizona Coyotes have selected Michael Maramo from Omaha, the United States Hockey League.
Oh, okay, Michael Rabel
next
going to the Arizona
selection belongs to the
Coyotes.
Buffalo Sabres.
The matching suits. We didn't see him on stage today. We saw him in day 1. What do we know about Michael Rabel?
Well, there's an echo in the building, fellas, after we didn't get the screen up on Guyan. Here we are with Harabel after I've already described him once. Giant in the net. Look at this kid. He's 6'7". That's his agent, Alan Walsh. There, he's just towering over him. Hey, he's athletic for his size. Like I said, he eats pucks from distance, Peter. Plays between his posts. Big guys don't have to play up in the crease, and they got to stay between the posts.
At a young age, being able to play between your posts at 6'7". A lot of goaltenders are young. Lose their post the odd time.
100%. Too active, and guys at your level, they score goals when you get too active.
What's going on with Phil Armstrong? Is this the NBA draft? You look at the guys they took yesterday, and Simashev and Daniil Boot. All these guys are over 6'3". It's the NBA draft for Arizona.
All right, well, Buffalo just elected Anton Wahlberg, Jason, a center out of Malmo of the Swedish junior hockey team.
This guy brings understated value. You have to watch him real closely. He's a big body. He does a lot of the heavy lifting in the hard areas, extending plays. Good pick. He's going to go around the net, around the crease, work below the goal line to extend plays. Real good pick there.
The 9th pick in the 2nd round belongs to the
Andrew Crystal, the next one off the board. Jason, left winger out of Kelowna, WHL.
One of my favorite personalities in the draft by far.
No
this
doubt.
kid looks like he just came right off the beach and surfing. He's an electric personality. He makes you smile. If you're having a bad day, come to the rink. This is a great teammate. Offense, offense, offense. I mean, he scores goals. He was kind of out on his own island there in Kelowna. They're rebuilding, and he put up huge numbers. This kid is pure offense.
It's the 4th of that Bedard friendship group. We saw guys yesterday, Wood and Benson, go along with Bedard. This guy's the 4th in that group of players that grew up playing together, and I know they'll be pretty happy for AC here today.
It's the roller hockey group. That was the roller hockey group.
Yeah, the roller hockey team. Yeah, they're waiting. Kent Johnson's at home. I hope it worked out for you, Kent, last night without the good guys there.
So we saw Washington make the pick. If you look at the draft board, the Detroit Red Wings now have 3 picks in a row. What do you think happens here?
Someone's throwing a hat.
Right? Yeah, the hat trick. But, Jason, is this an area where you maybe trade, move? We haven't had any movement at this point.
I think there's too many names available on their list, guys. I think they just keep rolling it out. So they just went to
a goalie, Trey Augustine.
Yeah, so they went to Augustine right into their backyard there at the U.S. National Team Development Program. Really athletic, great feet, tracks the puck aggressively, fronts it as well. But he's a guy that plays higher in his net, okay? He's a little bit smaller than some of the other guys, plays higher, but super athletic, great feet.
909 win percentage this year was the best ever by a development program goaltender in one season. And these guys have churned out the goalies in the last couple of years.
Sure have. The program has been really successful at, developing players of all sorts. And here, Augustine comes off the board.
Moves so smoothly. He was such a backbone of the 18 team. We're going to see him down the road. But for Trey Augustine, it's very interesting. The 3rd goaltender now in the 2nd round. It's a very deep draft. It just shows you how strong these goaltenders are and how important the goaltender is. Usually we see them in the 2nd round. We see them in groupings. And so far, we've seen 3 off the board early in the 2nd.
There's always a run. At the table, as soon as one goes, everybody's scurrying to look at their goalie list.
Does it help for the Red Wings with 3 picks in a row as well? It's like,
100%.
What? This is, we can't maybe expected them to take a goalie if they're not going to trade these picks. And the Bruins, I think last time we saw 3-0 was Boston a few years back.
In the first round.
The first round.
Yeah. DeBrusk, Sinishin, Zaboral.
Yeah, no goaltenders taken. This is interesting. The 2nd round, we'll start with the goaltender. Will they change it up? Go maybe one of each defenseman and forward as well?
Yeah, I mean, that's strategically they could. It depends, again, how the list goes. Or if they're going to trade one of these out, Reader, like kick it down to next year or the year. Like 2026 picks are starting to get traded off the board, which is incredible to me. But, hey, they got a timeline in this kid. He's going to Michigan State. Goalies traditionally at least 3 years of college. And then, of course, they usually don't hit till their 2nd contract cycle. Like their entry-level deal, it takes time for these guys. So this is a long play.
Got some proximity there, too. Plymouth being so close to Detroit, there's a lot of the higher-end scouts. When you look at Draper and you look at Sean Horkoff sitting at the table, Steve Eiserman would have been able to see Augustine very easily and on a number of occasions.
All right, we see the Red Wings taking some time. Does that indicate that something might be happening, or the fact that they have 3 picks in a row and they're just taking their time with who they're going to select now with their 41st and 42nd pick.
No, they're making a call to somebody at this stage. They don't wait after Augustine. After you pick a goalie, you already had a guy in the waiting there. So,
yeah, good call, JB.
One thing I
on
just
his phone, so
did they call timeout there?
I'm not sure if he called time, but he's definitely on the phone.
Yeah,
chit-chatting with someone, he and Chris Draper.
No timeout yet because you can see that clock still ticking down, 37 seconds and counting.
Something I noticed here, the last 2 picks, just to let you guys know, like Andrew Crystal, Evan Marble for the Washington Capitals, he's right there in Kelowna. So that's the backyard guy.
Detroit
and then
Red
again,
Wings
Trey Augustine backyard for the Red Wings.
Andrew Gibson.
All right, the pick is in.
The
Sioux
Detroit Red Wings
Greyhounds,
have
Andrew Gibson
Andrew
going to the
Gibson from
Detroit
Sault Ste.
Red
Marie,
Wings.
the Ontario Hockey
Sammy.
League.
Well, Andrew Gibson is a really
Now
interesting
for the
story
hat-trick,
because
the
as a
11th pick in the
6'3"
second round
right
also
shot
belongs to the Detroit Red
defenseman,
Wings.
this is a guy who had a
Detroit
lacerated kidney earlier this year. He missed 8 weeks, so he kind of went under the radar for a little while. This happened on a hit by Kyle Jackson, North Bay Battalion, and he ends up being out for 6 weeks as a result of that. But the key part for him is he was able to get back healthy enough to be able to play in the under-18s. Played the top 4 role there, played a ton of minutes. You see he's got some bump to his game, and we always talk about the value of having a right-shot defenseman. Andrew Gibson is all of that. And again, talk about that backyard pick, Detroit, pretty close to Sault Ste. Marie. A lot of opportunities to be able to scout there.
And you can see in all those videos he's using his stick work, and that's something that the Detroit Red Wings and Steve Yzerman's group have always taken. It's the intelligent player. May not be the biggest, may not be the smallest, but the intelligent player. When you watch Andrew Gibson play, his stick work is able to control down his own zone and close gaps in the neutral zone with his stick is obviously something that was noticed, and we saw it in every one of those videos. His stick was on the ice, and he leads with his stick. That's usually a good indication of a smart thinking defenseman, not rushing into plays, overplaying, and being over physical, using your stick and thinking the game.
Like, good for him, though, to be able to come from that. I know it was a scary injury. It was a little bit touch and go, but he responded and rebounded well.
All right, Steve Yzerman, you saw him back on the phone. Put that phone down.
You
It
have a
looks
trade
like
to announce.
Bill Daly's at the podium. Here we go.
Detroit has traded this pick, number 43, to Nashville for picks number 47 and number 147. Nashville, you're on the clock.
So the Red Wings trading pick number 43. Again, that was their 3rd in the row here in round number 2 in exchange for the Nashville Predators. They will receive pick 47 and pick 147 a lot later on this afternoon. So Nashville now officially on the clock.
So Detroit must have a bucket of players that they like there, that knowing they're going to slide back 4 spots, they're going to get someone that they really like, especially after addressing a goalie and a defenseman. Anytime you can add more darts, it seems to be the positive and proper thing.
From Rögle in Sweden, Felix Nilsson.
Felix Nilsson.
The Nashville Predators have selected Felix Nilsson.
You can see the
from
embraces
Rögle in
right
Sweden.
there with the family members. And
Next selection belongs to the Chicago
some of the best
Blackhawks.
moments we see right there are those embraces. We ask them after, hey, what did you say in that moment? They don't say anything. They just hug and they feel it. Sam, what do we know about this? Felix Nilsson.
Well, maybe the most improved player from the beginning of the year to the end of the year in Sweden. This guy was ranked 78th at the midterm by National Hockey League Central Scouting. He ended up 24th in the final version. So that says a lot about how National Hockey League thought about him. In 36 games, he puts up 41 points, gets into some SHL games, 18 of them, and a couple of playoff games. And I think when you have that sustainability as a young player and you're getting minutes, it speaks very well to how well thought of you are by the organization, and of course scouts feeling the same thing.
Roman Kantsarov, the next one off the board. Jason, a right winger out of Magnitogorsk, the MHL over in Russia.
Yeah, so these are the types of guys that have been hard to get, right? You know, you're scouting these guys on video, but he had an excellent year at the MHL level, over a point per game, deployed primarily at even strength on the first power play unit as well. He's another guy who's a little smaller, so he plays his off wing. He opens up the play reader, fronts it the whole time, so nothing's getting, he's not getting checked from the backside as much. Everything's in front of him.
Really see that off-wing player more in the European style. And Steve Larmer's always the guy I think of playing in the off-wing, the Canadian who did that, who played Chicago for years, and was dynamite in the off-wing. Very much more consistent play in the European game, especially in Russia. Think of the Ovechkin, same type of thing.
Absolutely.
The off-wing gets the better angle on the shot.
All right, so the Buffalo Sabres at 45, selecting Maxim Sturbach, a defenseman out of Sioux Falls in the USHL, Sam.
So the USHL numbers didn't really pop for this guy, and a lot of people went and looked and said, well, why not? He does have those kind of tools. And not that he's going to be an offensive defenseman, but when he got back playing with the national team, I love this game. I mean, JB, you and I were watching this guy at the World Juniors thinking, wow, this guy's something else. Again, another right shot defenseman. He moves pucks well. I like the way he defends. Even though he's not the biggest guy, he still defends with a good stick and body positioning. Not small at 6'1", 198, but that right shot ability and the fact that he's over in North America, you have a chance to see him playing in the USHL, and then his performance internationally, I think, speaks volumes.
Callan Lynn celebrating with his family and friends right there. The Nashville Predators draft pick at number 46. Sam, he is a left winger out of Red Deer, in the WHL.
Well, you know what? I got to know Callan a little bit, and he's not going to be offended when I call him a grease bag. That is exactly what he is. He gets in your face, he chirps you, he bothers you, he hits you, he sticks you. And this is the type of player, yeah, he's got a thin frame. There's some history in the family. Obviously, Cole Lind, his brother playing with Seattle, had a great AHL playoffs. And this is the type of guy who has that kind of skill. Steve Konowalchuk, the coach in Red Deer this past season, absolutely loved this guy. He had to get into the room every now and then and dial him back because he's so energetic and he's really, this guy'd make a pot of coffee nervous. That's the way he plays the game. So I love that energy that he brings to the table. I love the chirp. Got to see him beef up here a little bit. Yeah, start eating the pasta.
I agree. The 158 is pretty light. It's 6'1". 158 is okay if you're 5'9". But again, remember, these guys are 18 years old, young guys. They've got lots of time to grow and to build. And he comes with, like you said, he's that type of guy. If you call him anything to do with grease in hockey, it's usually pretty good. If you're greasy, it means you're in the mix and you're a player. You're in the game.
You mentioned his brother, Brother Cole, leading the 2023 AHL playoffs in points for the Kraken affiliate Coachella. And what a story that was, right? The Coachella Firebirds in their very first year of existence going all the way to the AHL finals under the tutelage and the guidance of Dan Bilesma right there. So Lynn taken by the Preds at 46. And what do you know? Steve Yzerman and the Red Wings back on the clock and using that clock.
So happy for Lynn just to watch him. He had a real difficult time in the playoffs, ended up getting knocked out and missed some time, but there he is at the combine. He's got that big smile on his face. Hey, Sam, he's yelling from across the way. Like, this guy is loud. He is boisterous. He is so much fun. That's a really good pick there for Nashville. And I think the fans will really take to his style of game.
Loud and boisterous. You think he's going to be wearing that Nashville jersey around all day, all night, maybe all through the weekend?
Oh, yeah.
Around here?
No doubt. It's funny because he's kind of the opposite of Cole. Cole is a much more quiet, reserved type of player.
The Detroit Red Wings have selected Brady Cleveland from the U.S. Under-18 National Team Development Program.
All right, the pick is in, 47. Brady Cleveland out of the U.S. Development Program. Sam.
I don't think there's any question that this is a projection pick, but Steve Yzerman likes his big D. Look at Evanson, look at Sider. Brady Cleveland is along those lines. For me, this guy's going to be a complementary back pairing type of player. He can shoot the puck, and I don't think he's going to be a power play guy, but I do think he has the ability to play with some bite in his game. I'd like to see him work on the puck skills a little bit more. But again, JB, you talked about these backyard picks. Again, at the under-18 program, big, tall defenseman. Steve Yzerman goes down that road once again.
Yeah, he's a throwback, guys. He's a big body who would have been a real punishing player in the 80s, 90s, even early 2000s. Now, he just needs to get there quick enough, make a first pass.
University of Wisconsin will be happy to have him, but he's a fantastic skater. He's got great feet, moves extremely well.
Yes.
Like Brady Cleveland, he could be one of those sleeper picks we talked about in 5 years about how strong he is on the back end for the Wings.
Calgary selecting at number 48, Etienne Morin, Raider, a defenseman out of Moncton.
All right, so that's the difference between Brady Cleveland and Etienne Morin. Morin is an all-skill, puck-moving defenseman, sees the ice, sees plays before they happen. Tremendous ability with the puck. One of the top scorers at 72 points in 67 games for Moncton, the QMJHL. He came over to the World Championship, played last 3 games because of injury, stepped in, had 1 assist in those 3 games. But you talk about a guy who can move the puck from behind his own net to the front of the opposition's net. This is the guy. He's a tremendous skater, tremendous skill, moves as well laterally as he does north and south. And
Islanders are proud to
you
select
talk
from the
offense,
US
you talk
National
defenseman, Eitan
Development
Morin is the guy in this
Danny
game.
Nelson.
Yeah, I had mono last summer, lost 15 pounds, came back. He promised the Moncton Wildcats he'd be back within 4 weeks. He didn't get into any exhibition games, but from there on, he took off. They like his IQ, his ability to move pucks, make plays, a little bit better along the blue line, and maybe some undercover skill there for Etienne Morin.
All right, Danny Nelson. Certainly the Islanders are familiar with the last name Nelson, a center out of the development program. Favorite player growing up was Zach Parise. He wears 11 because of him. He is committed to Notre Dame. Elliot, we officially had a trade earlier today after no trades on day one, and it sounds like something could be coming down the pipe. What do we know?
Just official. We're working on it. Kyler Yamamoto and Klim Kostin go from Edmonton to Detroit for future considerations. Edmonton was capped tight. They needed some flexibility, so not surprised this happened. Just that they went together. I didn't know if I saw that coming, but that does happen to Detroit, Jameson.
All right, Elliot, appreciate that. Guys, reaction to what we just heard from Elliot.
Yamamoto's got a little bit of Fabry in him, and then you protect him and insulate him with Klim Kostin. I think Kostin is a really sneaky player. Like, I love his size. I love the bite he plays with. And as being a former first-round pick, don't sleep on his skill. He can play with skilled guys all day long, but add that grit that you see in the playoffs. I like that move for Detroit.
All right, the Seattle Kraken
Chicago Blackhawks
making a
have
pick here.
traded
Carson
this pick,
Rakoff,
this
left
upcoming
winger,
pick, number
Sam out of
51.
Kitchener.
Yeah, so again,
Philadelphia
another interesting player who experienced some
number
inconsistencies in the year.
167.
If you go back to the Linka
Los
Gretzky,
Angeles'
I like the way that he played a
second-round
different
pick in
style of game and showed off a
2024,
different element to his game. He
previously
played on the
been acquired by
PK, he
Philadelphia.
played with a lot of bump and grind to his game and wasn't being
Philadelphia is
relied
on
on
the clock.
as a scorer. In Kitchener, it was a little bit of the flip side of that. He had to be relied on more of a scorer, and because of some of the inconsistencies in his game, there was some first-round talk about this player. He ends up at number 50, but he's got size and he has really, really good skill. You go back and look at some of his tapes from minor hockey, really impressive stuff.
Yeah, he's long. Off the rush, he's long. So if he gets the edge, he's hard to get out to defend against. You know, the puck is so far away from him, Reader. But the engine's got to be going all the time for big guys like that to have the production that they project to have, or they hope to have.
All right, so Chicago was supposed to select at 51. They flipped that pick to Philadelphia, and the Flyers selecting Carson Bjarnason, a goaltender, another goalie off the board here, round number 2, Sam.
Yes, sir, from the Brandon Wheat Kings, and the guy whose numbers don't pop. But I love the story about this guy. He's got a musical background, and he likes to play a little guitar on his own. But here's a player who has a lot of calm to him. And I think about the under-18s, Reader. You were there for that. The first game, they get blown out by Sweden 8-0. But he wasn't deterred. He went to Jeff Truitt and said, hey, I want back in. I want another crack at it. And he ends up leading them to a bronze medal. But a guy who's really calm, plays with a lot of poise. On many nights, he gave the Brandon Wheat Kings a chance to win. Didn't quite get him into the playoffs. I would have liked to have seen him steal a couple games to get Brandon in. Didn't work out that way. But still, you have to like the character of this young man.
U18s is a bigger stage than the WHL, and to get blown out in that first game, that was a terrible game. That was not Bjarnason's fault in that game at all. It was a terrible team game by Team Canada, and Bjarnason came back and was a pillar for this team throughout that tournament. The team struggled a little bit without the puck defensively. Bjarnason was very, very good, like you said, leading his team to the bronze medal.
Jason, 52, Oscar Fisker-Molgaard to the Kraken.
I can't I just can't explain it to you guys enough how elite this team was skating-wise, Team Sweden, and this guy fits the bill. There's another player who's still left on the board, Nick Lardis out of Hamilton. These two kids could be the two most elite skaters in the forward group in the draft. That's what Fisker-Molgaard is. He's quick out of the gates. He's got a great glide. He's a motion player. Offense is his upside.
LA Kings are up next at number 54. The Minnesota Wild at number 53, selecting Rasmus Kumpalainen. Jason, a center out of the Pelicans junior team of the Finnish Junior League.
Yeah, so this kid is on the rise as well. He had a great under-18 tournament. Good size. He kind of does a little bit of everything for the Finns. Power play, penalty kill, a lot of the heavy lifting. So I project him as a bottom 6 forward who's going to be a role guy. But in time, he could, slide into a 3F, occasionally 2F second power play unit provider there for the Minnesota Wild.
At number 54, the LA Kings, Reader, it's Jakub Dvorak, We didn't get to see this kid at the World Junior Championships in 2023 because he broke his collarbone. When he does play, what do we know about him?
Well, we know he's big and he likes to play physical, 6'5". Surprised you like Kings are taking a big physical defenseman. A little bit of Matthias Samuelsson in him, or maybe a little Ben Sherratt. Tremendous leadership character. At the U18s in 2023, was captain of Czechia with 3 points in 5 games. Moves the puck extremely well, but he's more known for a solid defensive defenseman. He's an excellent skater. He's a big-time physical player at 6'5". You'll probably see more of the physicality come over in the North American game than we saw in Europe. But Jacob DeBork's a nice pick for the Kings.
Jason, how about the Hawks getting Martin Misiak, a right winger out of Youngstown of the USHL?
Yeah, so he came over after the World Junior Tournament and joined Youngstown, went on a nice playoff run there when they won the USHL championship. This kid here, he's got a little cockiness to him. It's fun to watch. He's got good size. Not a ton of bump and grind for that size, though. He's a skill guy. So on the power play, again, he loves to have the puck. He wants to make plays. He's a good skater. We see that's an accurate scouting report. Good skater. Good quickness and balance. His center of gravity is really good, so he's hard to knock off pucks, but he's not a guy that goes and knocks other people off pucks.
Defenseman Bo Akey.
56, Bo Akey, Sam. The Oilers with their first pick here in round number 2.
Bit of an adjustment for Bo Akey this year because he started the year with the Barrie Colts as the go-to guy for Marty Williamson there. But as things started to turn and Brant Clark came back from the National Hockey League, some of those minutes got bumped. So there's some adversity for a guy in his draft year. He's getting all the primetime minutes. Now he has to acquiesce to Brant Clark. But it actually turned out to be a really good thing because I think Brant Clark has grown. I think he's matured. He comes back from the NHL. He helps mentor a young Bo Akey, and you get a chance to see this guy as a great skater. He's got a little bit of skill too. Like he can shoot the puck. This is the type of guy here at 56. I think Edmonton would be really happy with getting here. Again, you're looking at a list of players that I think a lot of people, probably up until about 50, would have had in their first round. And that's why we haven't seen a ton of action yet. People really happy about what they're getting here.
Seattle at number 57, Mike Lucas Dragicevic, a defenseman out of Tri-City in the WHL. Mike.
I'm getting Lucas Dragicevic. We've got him ranked 23rd, so in my eyes, I think this is a really good pick. Really good with the puck, good shot. Skating is a development area for him again, but that's not uncommon with prospects. The way that he gets up the ice in transition, though, is impressive. So you talk about the modern game, the modern NHL defenseman. Lucas Dragicevic, I think checks a lot of those boxes for Seattle. I had him higher, so obviously I like the pick at 57.
The Anaheim Ducks.
Lenny Hayman-Aho, Jason, a right winger. He played the entire season in Liga, made his league debut at age 17.
Yeah, no, this is a guy that, like you said, played the entire season in Liga, which is, an anomaly on that team. Having said that, he is a late birthday, a November birthday. Mid-range offense in Liga. His element definitely leans offense. He was deployed at even strength and the power play. He's not a burner and open ice guy. He's an average plus. Great mitts, though. Able to score from range. Great release.
All right, next up for the Anaheim Ducks, they've got 2 in a row. Carey Terrance, reader.
I love Carey Terrance. He played in the area of the OHL, but you really noticed him a lot when he played with the U.S. and won a gold medal at the under-18. One of the very few players that make the transition to be added to the team of players that play together for 2 years. Terrance has got tremendous speed, tremendous skill with the puck. He's a shooter. He scored 30 goals in 67 games in the area of the OHL. This guy can skate. He can absolutely fly. Not afraid to get physical, but what he's got to continue to work on is his in-game decisions. He's a goal scorer around the net, but his in-game decisions of puck moving and finding openings are something he's going to work on. But you talk about goal scoring and speed, that's Carey Terrance.
All right, Ducks with back-to-back picks here with their second pick at number 60. They're going with Damien Clara, Mike, another goaltender off the board here in round 2.
This is my guy right here, Damien Clara. He was, not on a lot of lists in terms of being a top goaltender. When you look at some of the guys, a couple have gone off the board already, but he's a big guy, 6'6", born and raised Italian, played a little bit in Sweden recently. And I talked to some teams that had him really high on their goaltending list. And there are some people who believe that when all is said and done, 6, 7, 10 years down the road, we may be looking at Damien Clara as if not the top goalie in this draft. He's very raw, needs some coaching development at higher levels, which he will get. But the tool set for this guy, the raw ability, is very, very high. So I'm not surprised to see him go in the second round. I love that pick by the Anaheim Ducks.
The Dallas Stars at 61, Raider Tristan Bertucci, defenseman from Flint.
6'2", 175, a left shot D. Very strong hockey IQ, moves the puck extremely well. His skating is probably his best attribute. They call it a four-skilled skater. He can move in any direction with the puck, without the puck, defends extremely well. With his skating, he's so strong at being able to get up and close gaps in the neutral zone to shut things down. One of the best strengths is hockey IQ and confidence with the puck. When you think the game extremely well and you have the puck, you're going to see the ice extremely well. You're going to move the play extremely well. Play with Flint in the OHL, 50 points, 39 assists in those 63 games. Kind of goes you. He's a thinker of the game. Nice pick, nice depth defenseman. He'll probably move in. You're probably looking at that 3-4 role, possibly a secondary power play guy in the future, but a nice pick by Dallas.
I went into Oshawa there to watch him towards the end of the year, and I thought, wow, isn't this interesting? It's been a slow burn for he and head coach Ted Dent, and at the start of the year was just playing regular minutes, and as things progressed, second half of the season, next thing you know, he's on the power play. He's got a little bit of PK time. They started to lean on him a little bit more, and he came in as a highly touted 16-year-old as a first-round OHL priority selection. Now he is blossoming into that player. I mean, obviously the one thing there, putting on some strength, putting on some weight. Yeah. He's working with Gary Roberts, so that should definitely help him out. But also a guy who, if we go back to yesterday, lived with Colby Barlow. So Colby Barlow had to come down from Beaverton, Ontario to play his minor hockey, and the Bertucci family ended up taking him in there, and they lived with him. They trained together for a while. Really helpful for Colby Barlow. I know those two have a lifelong friendship, and today and yesterday very special to both of them.
Leksand, Sweden, Felix Unger Sorum.
All right, so Carolina making their selection using 2 of the 3 minutes on the clock. And at 62, it's Felix Unger Sorum for the Carolina Hurricanes. Mike Kelly. I like this because Mike Kelly also, much like Carolina, taking his time to not pick up his telephone, but his microphone. We'll see. Maybe we lost him down there.
Grayson Sauchin.
All right, at 63, Florida, Grayson Sauchin. Sam.
Not oftentimes you see a player leave the U.S. National Training and Development Program, but that's exactly what Sauchin did. He's got good pedigree. He starts all the way back from Shattuck St. Mary's, was a teammate of Tyler Peddle, who we'll see go a little bit later today out of Drummondville, and those two guys really had a great friendship. But Sauchin, in his play with the Seattle Thunderbirds, has to fight through all kinds of layers of draft picks, NHL prospects, to get his playing time. So he's able to score at even strength, started to see some more power play time. I love his feet and I love his hands. This guy can stick handle in a phone book. He's got that type of ability. Really, really quick, soft hands. He can make things happen. Excellent playmaker with creativity and some elusiveness in his game.
Hey, if I can just go back to Unger Sorum, and I'll pick up where Mike was going to probably talk about. You talked about soft hands with Sauchin. Unger Sorum's the exact same. He was dynamite for the team Sweden at the under 18, 10 points in 7 games, 8 assists. Very smart, extremely smart hockey IQ, excellent playmaker.
Jason Riley Heights, our last pick here of round number 2, a center from Prince George.
Pure offense, threat off the rush, makes plays in tight space. Wants the puck all the time, needs better detail tracking back and providing assistance defensively.
44% of his points in the power play this year.
You can see the big board right there. 64 picks already down through the course of day 1 and 2. When we come back, we'll be on the clock officially for round number 3. Stay with us. Welcome back to the 2023 Upper Deck NHL Draft, rounds 2 through 7. Round 2 in the books. You can see some of the picks here, and the sweaters going on, the suit jackets coming off, and dreams being made as they make their way down to meet their teams that they hope to play on the ice in the National Hockey League sometime fairly soon. You can take a look as we enter round number 3. Some of the players who have been selected in round number 3, the likes of Jonathan Quick, Brad Marchand, Jordan Bennington, Jake Gensel, Braden Point, Adam Fox. So it doesn't matter how far or how deep you get in the draft, there are still players that can have massive impacts on your organization for years to come.
Oh, no question. And there's a bunch of kids sitting there probably disappointed that they didn't go in round 2. Some of them even in round 1. And you know what? It doesn't matter where you go. It matters what you do after you're picked.
Absolutely. Just a door that's open for you. Yeah, that's what you do once you go in.
All right, so the first pick here in round number 3 is Colson Petrie from the Anaheim Ducks. Sam, a right winger out of Flint.
Yeah, so again, another Ted Dent coach player, but Petrie is a guy who has to play straight lines. He's got good speed, and you can see that the style of game he plays doesn't really match his body style yet. But when he plays straight lines, up and down hockey, he bumps in first on the forecheck. That's when he is most successful. Yeah, he's going to score a little bit. He's going to be able to make some plays, but his calling card is the ability to play that power forward role. He just now has to go into a power forward body.
Yeah, he's got tons of speed off the rush. He's more of a chip and chase, though, instead of a beat a guy one-on-one guy.
Nothing wrong with the chip and chase game, though.
No, there's nothing the matter.
When you get the tight games, that's the way you want to play, because it's the turnovers of the one-on-one guys. The chip and chase guy is more suited for that National Hockey League style.
I'll take a chip and chase over a blue line turnover all day long.
How about this guy, Sam? William Whitelaw going to the Columbus Blue Jackets, right winger out of Youngstown.
Yeah, well, an interesting player, no doubt. But when we saw him at the Linka Gretzky, you thought, all right, this guy's got it going on here. And goes through the USHL, puts up really good numbers there. Get to see here a right shot, so that's always coveted, of course, getting an opportunity to play some international games. But I don't know, Whitelaw, I think there were some background stories there that were concerning about Whitelaw. I think he was a guy that if we looked at the start of the year, probably would have projected to be a little bit higher here. The Columbus Blue Jackets have obviously done their due diligence on this player, and now they get to select him here with the second pick of round 3.
The embrace right there. Can we call him William Whiteclaw if he's a hard seltzer to play against? Nice. I don't know if that works. How about Nick Lardis? I'll move it on from the Chicago Blackhawks. Reader.
Well, we were talking in the break after the second round. Is Nick Lardis still available? Yes, he is still available. And I don't get this one. Here's a guy who scored 37 goals in 69 games, 65 points. He's 5'11". He can score goals. He's got a tremendous shot. He can score from distance. He can score from anywhere on the ice. He's got a great motor. He's got a tremendous skill, tremendous skating ability. And maybe it's the fact that, we talked about it, Sam. It's the fact that he's scoring more from the outside than he does necessarily from in the tougher areas. And for Nick Lardis, a player who's moved around a little bit in his OHL career, but he's interesting trades. But he's playing with Hamilton. He still scores goals, and maybe getting to the inside is something that he's going to have to work on as he moves along.
And Jay McKee and the coaching staff there in Hamilton will make sure that happens. But the interesting part is he got a new life after being traded from Peterborough to Hamilton, where he scored 25 goals in his last 33 games. And that skating ability and scoring ability, those are two highly coveted assets. He is amongst the top of class in both of those areas. But again, it's about playing with some of that grit, determination, getting to inside ice, something he'll continue to work on here. And no doubt Nick will be motivated by going here in round 3. But he's got a great group to work with in the Chicago Blackhawks.
Jason, what does the hometown team, the Nashville Predators, need to know about their pick, Jesse Kiiskinen?
Well, this is a kid that generally plays to the same identity, game in and game out. He's used in all situations. His best work overall is evident on special teams, though. He's a motion guy. He's quick to space. Secondary scoring upside is possible. He's not a lead offensively, guys. More of an energy provider.
Jason, going right back to you here for the Habs pick at number 69. Jacob Fowler, goaltender off the board at number 3. Your guy.
That's your guy.
Yeah, so this is an interesting one for me. He's... I want to be delicate with this. He's athletic. He's positionally sound. He makes big saves. He's a proven winner. His fitness is a concern, guys. He's gonna have to put in the time and the effort because he's carrying some weight. And it's just going to be one of those things at a young age. He's just going to have to buy into the pro process, Reader. And there's nothing the matter with that. I'm not saying that it's a huge problem. I'm saying that as the games get harder, faster, more active, your fitness is going to become more of a factor for you.
You want to get in the playoffs, you want to play deep, you want to win those big games. You get into overtime games, no question, and fitness is so important. And for goaltenders, I played with a lot of goaltenders who are probably one of the fittest players ever. I think Bill Ranford, years back when he came in the league, was in incredible shape. And that was in a day where goaltenders were not the fittest. And since then, goaltenders have really taken that upon themselves to elevate that level. And but that's something you learn as you get into the pro game. You may not learn it in junior, may not need it in college, but in the pro game, you're going to need it.
All right, the Arizona Coyotes at number 70, selecting Jonathan Castagna, a centerman out of St. Andrews College of the CAA. AHS, tied for 7th among all Canadian high school skaters in points this past season at 72 points. I like the three-piece right there. Two-tone three-piece, getting it done on day 2.
That's the suit of the day for sure so far, fellas. There's no doubt about it.
I think we've got room to grow, though.
I don't know. It's only
Contrast in
6'2".
the
Arizona drafting someone under like 6'4".
Why'd they take a short guy?
That's 6'2". Bill Armstrong wants to look up to more of his players. What's Billy, about 6'5"?
Yeah, exactly.
General manager.
All right, so you can see the profile here on Jonathan Castagna. NHL Network, we had him at about 130, so significantly higher here at number 70. You can see what he did last year with St. Andrews College. 50 games, 29 goals, 43 helpers, and like we said, maybe the suit of the day so far, but it's still early.
Well, he's from Etobicoke, my hometown. So this guy
is that well-dressed area?
He's well-dressed area, and he's so you know he's got it in him to play. Played St. Andrews College, a very elite school, definitely known more for their education.
Yes.
And advancing young men and women onto a higher educational levels. Not necessarily always known for their hockey program, but they've developed a strong Castagna. It's nice to see him, Jonathan Castagna, come out and be drafted to the Arizona Coyotes.
So that's a guy that's a good skater. Like he's big, he's tall, he's lean, he's a good skater. Those numbers that you see at that level, they're elite for that level. But this is a long-term play for sure for Arizona, and they've got time with their prospect pool being as flush as it is.
Well, they got time knowing where they might play in the next couple of years as well. I mean, I honestly think that when you look at Arizona and some of the picks that they've drafted, they've kicked the ball down the road here a little bit until some of that stuff gets sorted out.
How far down the road do we have to keep kicking that ball, though?
No,
we talk about like a guy like Logan Cooley, and he's staying in college, and he's staying in college. We're kicking that ball down the road. At some point, that ball has to bounce and stay somewhere,
well,
right?
It's got to have a home. There's no question, and that part needs to be sorted out. But that's not really a concern to Bill Armstrong, other than the fact that he has to go and take the best players, which he feels obviously very strongly about, especially with some of the surprises in round number 1, and then he can kind of manage that part, knowing in the back of his mind that this guy's a college guy, we got a couple of years. This guy's in Europe, we got a couple of years. This guy's playing over in high school, we got a couple of years.
I'm going to say this, though, Reader, like, if Logan Cooley, let's just go to him for a second, he decided to go back. If he goes back next year, am I ever getting concerned?
Yeah, absolutely. Because there's going to be that issue. He can re-enter the draft, or is he going to sign with you, become a free agent?
He can't go to his junior year, Logan Cooley. I know that's a discussion for next year when we're all gathering, at the draft. But, keep an eye on that kind of process.
For Arizona, you build assets. Other teams in the National Hockey League, everybody's watching all these players.
Yeah.
They're watching them develop. They just don't, the draft's over, we don't have them, we're not going to worry about them. No. You watch all these players, so if you've got all these assets, and this is what the draft's all about, building assets, down the road when these younger players start to develop, that's when teams are going to be knocking on your door, and that's when you can, you know what, we're going to have to move some of our assets for players for today.
Yeah. So what you're seeing there, guys, just for our viewers who aren't
saw
sure.
a lot of paperwork is what I saw.
Yeah. So there's a computer at the table, and you enter the pick into the registry. And if you pull up the list of approved players in your computer, and they're not in the registry, you have to go up here, and you're seeing members of the league and members of the Carolina staff go through the process of making sure that the player can be approved for the draft process.
How would a player not be on the approved list at this point?
So if he's from Europe, it could be age factor. If he's aged out in a certain category, it could also be the same over here. But sometimes he's just a miss. I'm going to be, but I think they're going to talk about it maybe.
Yeah, it sounds like something's coming soon. We hope so, because the Hurricanes have certainly used up all 3 minutes.
What we would
and then
usually
some.
do ahead of time in Florida is if we didn't see a guy that was listed, Reader, we'd send it to the registry ahead of time. But there's a danger in that, because that pops up across the board on all the teams' computers in the system. So now they know somebody's listed somebody.
Yeah. As you try and sneak him in at the last minute.
So you sneak him in, but
yeah.
I'm going to tell you, the league hates this part right here.
We have a trade to announce.
And I guess trade back.
Carolina has traded this pick, which is number 71 overall, to San Jose for picks number 94 and 100. San Jose is now on the clock.
That's the MO right there. That is the MO for the Carolina Hurricanes. The trade back, add more darts to the board. They've been doing that ever since this new regime took over. Eric Tulsky, you got Don Waddell there. And I think that's the situation for Carolina. They're happy to do it.
Value is the name of the game. in Carolina. So here we go. Let's listen.
Brandon Svoboda.
All right, Brandon Svoboda. So you can see Carolina used all their time. They flipped that pick with the San Jose Sharks for 94 and 100, and there is the Sharks selection right there.
Arizona Coyotes.
Bit of a rig, this guy. I mean, 6'3", 210 pounds, right shot, center, playing for a good Youngstown team. 16 goals this year. That had him amongst the top 10 of USHL rookies. And, of course, you've got some bloodlines to consider there. But, yeah.
Right shot center at 6'3", though.
Yeah.
I mean, the right shot centers, you can't have, it's like a right shot defense. I think you see more left shot centers and left shot D than you do right. And at 6'3", there's lots of time for growth for Svoboda.
Swedish League. Next order
make his way over to Boston University, so there'll be some developmental time there for him.
Arizona making a quick pick here at 72. Noel Nord, Jason, left winger out of the Swedish Junior League.
Yeah, good size forward, average skill set overall, guys. Skating has got room to improve. He needs a little bit more. He's okay out of the gate, but in open ice, he needs to transport it a little bit quicker than he does in open ice. In North America, I'm a little bit concerned just about his style of play, but you know, on the power play, he goes net front, he battles, takes away the eyes of the goaltender. He's excited here. You know, you see where he is, right? He's around the crease a lot of these goals, and great celebration. So he's got some work to do, but it's going to take time.
At the U18s, you couldn't move this guy. He stood in front of the net for Sweden on the power play. He was big, he was strong, he plays a little bit of an edge. And you know what, when you're 200 pounds at 18 years old, it means that, you know what, you do have some room to improve your quickness and your speed. He's a big guy at 6'2", 200 pounds. I think he's a great pick and a great player you can lean on for a few more years, and he can develop that little quick twitch muscles to get his feet moving a little faster. But you stand in front of the net, he's got great hand-eye coordination. He scored some big goals for Sweden.
Yeah, you got to be willing to go to the hard areas for sure. There's absolutely no doubt about that.
And it was a silver medal for Sweden too as well. They lost to the U.S. in the final there, and he was a big part of that.
Speaking of Sweden, Noah Dover Nielsen, Jason, left winger from Frölunda.
I would have thought at the beginning of the year that he would have gone higher than this. He went through some ebbs and flows. This is a fantastic story, guys, and I have to share it with you. He lost his mother to cancer and shared that with us at the Combine. He's been playing with a heavy heart and dealing with a lot of things off the ice. So good on him to plow through outside distraction and skill guy, off the flank, shooter, good speed. When this kid's on, he pushes the play.
You know what's interesting there? His brother Liam, also a Detroit pick. So now the two brothers can hang out together. And I know Noah has sought some help outside of the game in terms of mental performance. And I think that's a perfect idea for Detroit to get him paired up with his brother Liam. Now the two of them can be Detroit Red Wings. Obviously, they've had a lot of success there in Sweden. But again, the story that you talk about, JB, is hugely important and at the forefront here today.
Yeah, older brother was a fifth-round pick by the Red Wings back in 2021. At 74 to St. Louis, reader Quentin Burns.
Quentin Burns is from Smiths Falls, Ontario, the home of great goaltender Billy Smith, and he plays in Kingston in the OHL, which is pretty much just around the corner if you want to be in the backyard from Smiths Falls. A big defenseman, 6'1", 180 pounds. He is physical. He is extremely tough along the boards. He is a no-nonsense defenseman that is very, very difficult to play against. He's a tremendous skater, moves extremely well. He's got a very good first pass. But if you want a tough guy to play against, that depth defenseman on any team for St. Louis, he fits into St. Louis's style of play. You know what? It's going to be a tough night to play against me, and that's Quentin Burns in a nutshell.
At 75, Vancouver, Hunter Brustovich, defenseman out of Kitchener. We got to take a quick time out here from the NHL Draft, round number 2 through 7, day 2 here in Nashville. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the 2023 Upper Deck NHL Draft, rounds 2 through 7. Round 2 officially in the books. About to be halfway through round number 3. We took a commercial break. 4 picks had gone by, but Mike Kelly, I know you wanted to go back to the defenseman, from Kitchener, Hunter Brustevich.
Absolutely. I really like this pick here for the Vancouver Canucks at 75. This is a player that I had on my list at 36, so obviously I like it. Rasmus Sandin I have as an NHL comp, thinks the game exceptionally well. Excellent brain. Not a guy that tries to force plays. He's not overly flashy, but really, really smart player. Reads the game well. Playmaking there is a strength of his as well. Development, defense, but certainly not a weakness by any stretch of the imagination. So the fact that I had him at 36 and he goes where he did in the draft, like that pick a lot.
All right, we like that analysis a lot. Thank you very much. Mike, at 77, reader, Matthew Cataford, a center from Halifax, out of the queue.
Real nice, smooth skating player. 31 goals in 68 games for the Halifax Moosehead from Chateauguay, Quebec, just outside of Montreal. Excellent hockey sense for Cataford. He sees the ice extremely well. He's got gifted hands. He moves the puck extremely well. He competes as well as anybody. At 5'11" and 190, sometimes you've got to go get pucks in areas that you may not want to go. You're going to take a whack here and there. He does that, and he not only does that, but he comes out usually on the other side with the puck, such as this play here. Uses his smarts and plays to be able to create space for himself. He's not going to bowl you over. He's not going to push you out of the way with his size, but he uses his brain to usually make the plays that develop into offensive plays. A really, really nice pick for Vegas.
190 pounds, fellas. His fitness, like he's a load. He's 5'11", but he's a load.
So if in part of the note said if he doesn't work out in hockey, he's going to open a gym. That's usually a pretty good indication.
Yeah, he was jacked at the combine. He was absolutely ripped. I could see it.
Gym rat. Waiting on Nashville here to see what they do at number 79 as time winds down. It sounds like something may be happening. They're over at Central Registry right now, so Nashville potentially trading back here.
I can make a comment on the Cohen-Zeimer pick if you want out of Prince George. Give the kid some love here. Goal scorer. I mean, 41 goals in 68 games. He leans shooter more than playmaker in my estimation. Highly dangerous on the power play, Sam. He's a big body at 210 pounds. Not real tall, like he's 6 foot, but quick release. He's one of those guys that catch and release in tight areas. It's like on his stick, off his stick. So there's the scouting, the report from John Williams, who's been in the game forever. Yep. Luke Williams, his dad, longtime scout and Sault Ste. Marie reader. Remember old Luker?
Yes.
But anyways, naturally strong. He's got to work on his skating, his explosiveness, and his separation.
And he's been addressing that. He's working with quantum speed out of Edmonton. That's something that he's working on right now. He recognizes that self-awareness. I love that when kids have that. Recognizing that and trying to address it here in the offseason.
All right, we have an announcement. Let's go to the podium.
We have a trade to announce. Nashville has traded the current pick number 79 to Dallas for a 3rd and 6th round pick in the 2024 draft, which means Dallas is now on the clock.
So Nashville trading away pick number 79 to the Dallas Stars. In exchange, they'll get a 3rd and a 6th round pick coming up in next year's draft. So, Dallas, you are officially on the clock.
This is what is an example of the flexibility that Nashville built up last year by acquiring a lot of draft capital for here. And when you start to run out of names on your list, I know we're only in the 3rd round, but if they start to project out their list and they don't love guys in a certain slot, they're going to continue to kick that can down the road and continue to add capital to their draft board for next year.
It's funny you say that because they came into this one. Barry Trotz, here, I'm going to turn this thing over to you, says David Poyle. Here's 13 picks. Go get them. Like, that's a lot of picks to have in one draft, so you kick a few of them down the road.
All right, speaking of trading away things, we just saw trade away picks, but we saw a trade earlier with Josh Bailey, Elliott to Chicago. What more do we know about that?
There is a development, Jameson. Earlier today, Josh Bailey was put on unconditional waivers by the Blackhawks for purposes of a buyout. He stays on them for 24 hours till noon Eastern tomorrow. Assuming he clears, he will then become an unrestricted free agent and a buyout by the Chicago team. So Bailey could become a UFA in 24 hours. The last day to put people on waivers for a buyout is tomorrow. If you have a no-move clause, they don't have to put you on waivers. They just tell you. But if you don't have one, you have to be put on waivers first, Jameson.
Elliot, appreciate the insights. We'll keep you posted all day long down there on the draft floor. At 79, Dallas taking Brad Gardner, Sam. Has some bloodlines. Dad played over 300 games in the National Hockey League.
Yeah, the Ottawa 67s have a great program and a coach in Dave Cameron who really prepares his players for National Hockey League and playing pro. But at 6'1", 184, it sure didn't look like that for him last year. He had 20 pounds over last summer, so he comes in to this season as a guy who can handle the physicality a little bit more, who can assert himself physically and give himself more power and balance to be able to take pucks to the net. So you're looking at a guy here, 19 goals, pretty good, 39 points all told, but this is a guy who is a bit of a project pick. Moving forward, you have to like the fact that he's addressed the size issue, will continue to do so this offseason.
Jason at number 80, Calgary. Idar Suniev, left winger out of Penticton.
Yeah, it's easy to identify this kid's element, his read and react game in the offensive zone, and identifying how the play is developing off the rush. Pure offense from this guy. Him and Bradley Nadeau there were lighting it up at the Tier 2 level in the BC Hockey League this year in Penticton, and he loves to score goals. He's a big body. He's deceptive off the rush. Another one of those guys that doesn't look like he's moving that fast, but he's just hard to knock off the puck. He's got a big rear end reader. I don't know how else to put it. You know, those guys are just hard to get around and defend against. Like,
you know what? Nothing wrong with that. You can stand in front of a net. You can defend. You can play both ends of the rink. When you are big and you're tough to move, and you're 6'2", 192 at 18 years old. You get your feet moving, you get some speed going, you're going to be tough to play against.
Hard to defend, it just is what it is.
Big rear end, flattering in the sport of hockey.
It is.
Nowhere else that one works. You'll get slapped on the streets if you use it anywhere else. How about at number 81, Tanner Lutke, a centerman out of Lincoln in the USHL, 6th among all USHL skaters and goals this past season with 32. He is committed to the University of Nebraska, Omaha. At 82, Zach Naring from the Winnipeg Jets.
Go ahead, Nashville.
As we wait on Zach, as he celebrates quite possibly the biggest moment of his life, and certainly the most important moment of his hockey career at this point. Looking for him in the crowd as he makes his way down to the draft floor, and we'll celebrate with a new sweater and meeting some new teammates, so to speak, in the front office there in Winnipeg. At 83, Dylan McKinnon, the National Predators. And you heard a loud roar in this building. We are in Nashville, Sam. Dylan McKinnon.
Yeah, 6'2", 190 pounds, right shot defenseman. Again, that added value we talk about, but this is a tough guy. This is a guy who knows that he has to play with physicality. 3 fighting majors this year, which is tough to accumulate in the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League. It's tough to accumulate anywhere in the Canadian Hockey League these days, but in his rookie season, just a couple of points, and you wondered what he was going to be, what type of defenseman was he going to be, but clearly has identified as that complementary guy, tough to play against, good in front of his own net, will work the corners for you, and just be that nasty piece of business for you.
All right, how about a defenseman, Caden Price here at 84 to Seattle? Sam.
A little bit similar, but with more offensive upside. Now, Price doesn't play with the same nastiness that McKinnon does, and I think Price got caught in between being a point-producing guy or a puck-moving guy, and I think he leans more, or I would project him more as that puck-moving guy. To think that he's going to be a point producer is probably a bit of a stretch. But again, you can make a lot of money in this game, and you can have a very successful career being that complementary guy and understanding your role, playing it to a T. We're seeing the depth of defensemen now where teams are running sometimes 8 defensemen into the playoffs, due to injuries and how tough the game is. So if you can just play your role, move pucks quickly and efficiently, play that mistake-free hockey and defend the net, you can play a long time in the National Hockey League.
And Seattle finally got their price, and it's not just any, it's a C price.
I like that.
Nice.
From Muskegon in the USHL.
Well, the Ducks did take a defenseman. They took a right winger, Sam, Igor Sidorov.
Yeah, well, he's been through the draft once already, but this guy is slick. He's got great offensive skills. 76 points this year. He sniped 40 times. Did Sidorov, and you have a guy here who was playing with the Saskatoon Blades, a really good program, and I don't know. I love the fact that he can really score goals, but it's the hands, it's the creativity that he has in his game. He's slick, got a little bit of swag to him, and I like that. Anytime you got a little bit of swag, you're going down, you've been through the draft once, I think that's a guy who's looking to prove himself beyond, but there's no doubt he belongs here.
Igor looking at his phone, looking for maybe a direction of where to go. He needs Google Maps right now. Somebody give this kid some direction. There we go. This is Gavin McCarthy making his way down to the draft floor. 86 from the Buffalo Sabres here, defenseman out of Muskegon in the USHL. His brother Case was a 4th-round pick in 2019, the NHL Draft by New Jersey. He is committed to Boston University. So the younger brother, Gavin, maybe some bragging rights over Thanksgiving dinner because he goes round 3, his older brother going in round 4.
He's got some bite to his game, this kid, McCarthy. Like, he pushes back. He's not shy about it. And they talk about him being mobile and skilled. You know, he produces, I call it two-way offense. Secondary scoring might be a little bit of a reach for me as a pro, but I like his effort. I like that he closes in on guys and he punishes people.
So Gavin McCarthy at
ahead,
86. Igor
Arizona
Zagravic,
selects from Dinamo
87,
Minsk, Vadim
to the
Moroz.
Philadelphia Flyers.
Coyotes have selected Vadim Moroz from
At 88,
Minsk in Russia.
Vadim Moroz out of Russia going to the
Next
Arizona
order
Coyotes,
selection
Jason.
belongs to the Vancouver
So
Canucks.
we're getting a run of Russian prospects going to the Arizona Coyotes, and not just one or two. Like, might be three. I might be losing track. I might be up to four, Sammy, as we get through this, but three for sure. And it's interesting, isn't it? Because it's almost become a strategy here where they feel like they might have been able to trump some other teams with better viewings, better intel on players. And again, when you've got that many prospects, Reader, let's just take a swing,
Absolutely.
right?
Vancouver selects from the Seattle Thunderbirds, Sawyer Manayo.
Sawyer Manayo
Vancouver
out of
Canucks
Seattle. He's
Sawyer
kind of staying
Manayo
local out on the
from
West
Seattle
Coast.
in the Western
Vancouver
Hockey
Canucks at number 89.
The next selection
Sneaky
belongs to the
defenseman here,
Pittsburgh Penguins.
and a solid guy who can just play that efficient style of game. Again, he's not going to give you a ton of offense, but a guy that will play tough. He gets a lot of tough matchups, really good stick and body position. I was talking to Matt O'Dette earlier this year about this guy. We got talking about Mijatovic a little bit, Grayson Sachin a little bit, and I felt pretty strongly about those players going high in the draft. And he said to me, Sam, don't sleep on this guy. This guy, Minio, he's been a really reliable source for me on the back end. So, again, he gets all the tough matchups. He's more of that complementary type of player. Vancouver Canucks going the way of D. That's something that they need to build up in their system. And Minio with those additional looks here at the Memorial Cup playing with Seattle.
We're starting to get to the point, guys, where I'm starting to see more need starting to get selected, right? We're going 3D now for Vancouver. You're starting to see that point in the draft where that tap on the shoulder might be happening.
Is that standard every year by the time we get maybe halfway through round 3, or is it different every year based on the draft class that we have, Jason?
I think it depends on the depth, and certainly it also depends on your own internal cycle of where you are as an organization. But historically, if I had to pinpoint it, I'd say midway through the third round is when we start to kind of look at a group of names and start to fill some needs at times.
Well, how about this, JB? At what point does it get turned over to the regional guys, the regional scouts, who might start to have more say, as opposed to maybe your crossover guys or your head scouts? At what point in the draft do we start to see that?
Well, I don't know how everybody else does it, but every guy on my staff has as much say as the next guy. I don't care if you're a crossover guy or regional guy. We all get a piece of the pie there. So,
yeah, nice.
But as we get later, to your point, if we're down to like 3 guys, and maybe when I was working for Dale Town, he wants to know just a little bit more, we'll call the guy up to the head of the table and say, hey, listen, just tell Dale again why we love this guy, and that's a fair discussion to have.
Right.
You got to have everybody involved, fellas. They travel away from their families. They're on the road all the time. They miss a lot of things. They all got to feel like they're included all the time.
Love that.
Kyle Dubas
Scouts have their own family of scouts from other teams because they all travel a lot of times to the same areas. Regional guys, they'll see more of their scouting brethren than sometimes they do with their own families, especially in big tournaments around the holidays, around Christmas. You're going to World Junior, you're going to U18s. There's different times of the year where the scouts are out. So yes, absolutely. If they're, I don't know a team that doesn't give respect like that to all their scouts.
Kyle Dubas and the Pittsburgh Penguins on the clock and using much of that clock. So we'll use this chance to take a quick commercial break. Much more from the NHL Draft, day number 2, here from Bridgestone Arena in Nashville. Welcome back to the 2023 Upper Deck NHL Draft, rounds 2 through 7. We are in round 3, halfway through, and well, you didn't miss anything during the commercial break. We saw the Pittsburgh Penguins on the clock. Well, they used all their time and then traded that pick. It was pick number 90. It now goes to the New York Rangers. So they swapped pick 90 for 91. Maybe they needed just 3 more minutes, but also included in that is a 7th round pick in 2024. So here we go. The New York Rangers making their pick at number 90. And it's Drew Fortescue.
National Team Development Program in the United States.
Loud cheers for Drew Fortescue. He's, I don't know, coming from a big family or whatnot, Sam, but that might be the loudest ovation we've had so far on day 2 here inside Bridgestone Arena.
Gold medalist with the under-18 program. You're looking at a D who shoots left at 6'1", 180 pounds. trying to think who I was talking to earlier in this year. You know who it was? It was JP. John Paul Moroz said, I love this Fortescue guy. So that's who I was talking to earlier in the year, and has a lot of love for him. But looking at that gold medal winning performance for the U.S. Under-18 team at the World Championships, they win it 3-2 in overtime. Like the New York Islanders and Devon Taves growing up, but that's not going to be the option for him now as he gets the opportunity to play for the New York Rangers, a hated rival of the New York Islanders.
You can see the scout speak here on Drew Fortescue. Rounded out his two-way game this year. We go on and on. There it is. A lot of family members in attendance. Certainly this is a big day for them. Rounds 2 through 7 on day number 2. Getting to hear their name called and their dreams fulfilled. So Pittsburgh drafting back to number 91 as you see Drew Fortescue putting on his New York Rangers sweater. How about number 91 here, the Pittsburgh Penguins reader?
How about Penny Niemi? Real nice, smooth skating defenseman, 6'2", 175. Another depth player, played in Finland at the World Championship, played 5 games, had 1 assist. Kind of a jack of all trades defender type thing. Played a little bit in the Liga, which is the men's top league with Karpat in Finland. Left shot defenseman.
Of the United States
Probably one of the better defensive prospects in Finland. And Finland is usually known for having top prospects. This is a year that they struggled a little bit with some other prospects on the back end. Niemi moves the puck well, skates well, defends well, can play the power play, can play in the penalty kill, played in all situations. Just a good depth defenseman, and I think that's probably what he's going to be projected as with the Penguins.
All right, the Bruins finally coming out of hibernation here at the 2023 draft, right? Don Sweeney and company is taking a nap on day number 1. Why not? And then here they are, their first selection coming in round number 3, and it's Christopher Pelosi at number 92.
Go ahead, Chicago.
What do you guys make of the big picture Boston Bruins here and what they're trying to accomplish? Of course, they've been busy. They're up against the cap, trying to make some moves, trying to shed some cap space. Where is this team heading? Because they're coming off a historic season that we've never seen before last year.
It seems like it's the back 9 with this group now. You're talking about Marchand and Bergeron, Krejci, and you're thinking about having a record-setting year in the regular season. Of course, they bow out in round number 1, and it's you're trying to hold on to the past, but you also have to kind of move towards the future here a little bit. So I think that's the stage that Boston is now. You know, that window to win, it's very short in the National Hockey League. You got to take advantage of it when you can. I love the moves Don Sweeney made last year, the Orlov, Hathaway type things, but now it's time to start transitioning back to getting to be a bit younger.
They're walking a fine line right now, fellas. I mean, they're right on that cusp of are we or aren't we? And if we aren't, what do we have coming through the pipeline? Because it might be some NHL type trades, hockey trades that will have to reestablish the roster in short order. The pipeline's on the come see right now.
Christopher Pelosi, a native of New Jersey, committed to Quinnipiac. The Bobcats coming off their first national championship in their history. And what a year and what a run it was for Rand Pecknold and those Bobcats. So at number 93, Yuri Felkman to the Chicago Blackhawks. You talk about a team, maybe the opposite of the Boston Bruins, right? That window closing for Boston. Chicago, we can only go up from here, and with the pick of Connor Bedard, number 1 overall. But you guys liked what they did on day number 1, didn't you?
Oh, yeah. I mean, Chicago is really starting to take flight here, and that's exactly what Kyle Davidson wanted to do. Listen, if you get the general manager's job, you get it for good reason. Obviously, upper management has the faith in this guy, but aside from that, when you take over a team, if you're given the license to strip it down and to build it exactly the way you want, everything falls upon you. So when you look at day 1 now, Bedard and Moore, 2 centers, working down the middle of the ice. Moore obviously is a speedster. Connor Bedard, what haven't we heard about him? Then you start with Gahan here early in round 2 to address the goaltending of the future. He's go onto the wing and look for a little scoring, and Misiak and Lardis, and then back to center ice. So lots of picks left here still for the Chicago Blackhawks.
Lots of speed in those picks too, guys. Like Bedard, obviously we know the skill, but boy, did they add some speed. More Lardis. I mean, these are elusive forwards.
Who's going to get them the puck? Coming out of their own zone. Didn't see any defensemen on there. Like that. Do you think maybe Chicago? That's what we're looking at from moving forward here.
To address
at this
some
point,
needs,
you're looking for that depth, that depth defenseman.
All right, so it took a while, but with 30 seconds left, Jaden Perron going to the Carolina Hurricanes.
Next order of selection belongs to the Philadelphia Flyers.
So, United States Hockey League, the Chicago Steel, they just keep pumping out players. They've done a heck of a job there. And here's another offensive guy. He's slight, like he's not a big, strong guy, but offense is the upside, no question. He's going to be a guy, though. Here's my fear: when we start to take swings at guys in the middle of the draft, he's a guy that might have to play in your top 6, if you know what I mean. Like, he's a guy that needs primary ice, so he's going to have to put in the work because he's got to compete to move up the lineup to establish his identity.
You have to like the point production. The kid from Winnipeg who ends up going to the USHL. Third in USHL with 48 assists for Perron, but a guy who generated a little bit of first-round interest earlier in the year. But again, when you're coming off the Stanley Cup and how hard and heavy it was and how big players had so much success, probably a step back here as a 5'9", 166 guy.
At number 95, Denver Barkey to the Flyers' Jason Center from London.
So Denver Barkey, 200-foot energy guy, came out of the blocks early at the Ivan Holenka Memorial Tournament last August, and we really thought that he was going to be that pest who could be, better than a point a game. But he kind of lulled in the middle of the season, and then took off again. So you're seeing him here. He's elusive, right? Quick to small areas. These guys are hard to defend. Guys like Gavin Brindley, Denver Barkey, same type of style. Travis Konechny in Philly. This is like Travis Konechny light on projection.
That concludes.
So Vegas here with the last pick in round number 3 at number 96. It's R2 Karki, Jason, a defenseman out of the Finnish Junior League.
So we're getting into that area here. This is a project in my estimation. He's a late 04 December birthday. He did produce offense, but I don't know, guys. There's a lot of projection here. He's got good size. At times he walks the offensive blue line, makes plays. Then there's other times there's a detail in all 3 zones really fall off. The Finnish Junior League at the U20 level, those points are good. Don't get me wrong. We've drafted kids out of there before, but he's going to have to go to another level. The good news is when you draft a guy like this, he's on the clock for like 4 years before you really have to get him over here.
All right, from projections to concrete news, back down to the draft floor with Elliot Freeman. Elliot, what do we got?
More moves. The Chicago Blackhawks continue to do things after a very quiet day yesterday for everyone. The Blackhawks have acquired Corey Perry from the Tampa Bay Lightning for a 7th-round pick in 2024. You assume that when this kind of move happens right during the draft, right before free agency, that there will be an extension coming, working on it. We'll see what the Blackhawks and Perry are working on.
Elliot, we appreciate it. So Corey Perry going to Chicago in exchange for a 7th-round pick at 97. Connor Smith, defenseman out of Peterborough, and looking good, looking sharp in his suit as his dream becomes fulfilled. We'll take a timeout here as we are well underway in round number 4 here, day 2 of the NHL Draft.
Montreal draft.
Welcome back to the 2023 Upper Deck NHL Draft, rounds 2 through 7. We are a couple of picks into round number 4 here, and while we were away at commercial break, a couple of names going off the board. Jason, including Andrew Strathman. This kid's got to have high hockey IQ because he said if hockey doesn't work out, he wants to be a surgeon.
Whoa. Okay, well, good for him. That's outstanding.
Go ahead, Arizona.
Easy. That's out of my snack bracket, as you can tell, as I stumble over my own words here. But anyways, he leans a two-way transitional DM projection, used in all situations at the USHL level, and produce some offense. He's got some bump to his game. Not tall, compact, strong. I like that he's aggressive with the puck. He makes quick decisions, and he's got a chance. He's got skill. He moves well. He's competitive. This is a nice pick in the middle of the draft.
How about Reader at number 99, the Hawks? Alex Ferron, center from Sudbury.
Very interesting story with Braun. He's 6'3", a right shot center. He's had 2 years in the OHL, and he's been traded twice, and both have been huge trades. Once he was drafted by Hamilton at 14th overall, but he was traded to Peterborough for Mason McTavish. Hamilton goes on to win the 2022 OHL championship. Then he's in Peterborough. He gets traded to his hometown Sudbury. Hopefully Sudbury doesn't trade the hometown kid. And that trade is for Chase Stillman, and guess who wins the OHL championship? The Peterborough Petes win the OHL championship. So Alex has been in 2 big trades. but he's a big guy. He had 18 goals, 67 games, big, physical guy, skates decently enough, but again, he's a project at that size at this age.
Cole Knuble getting selected here at 103 to the Flyers center from Fargo in the USHL. Congrats to him. He was passed over in the draft last year's dad. Of course, we know Mike Knuble played over 1,000 NHL games. 104, Patrick Thomas to the Washington Capitals.
Vancouver selects Ty Mueller from University of Nebraska, Omaha.
All right, Ty Mueller
Next order
out
of
of the
selection belongs to
University
St.
of
Louis.
Nebraska, Omaha, going to the Vancouver Canucks at 105.
Oh, some interesting backtracking here. Let's look at the Montreal pick at 101, Florian Jacki. And that name, as soon as you see it, you know what that's all about. Arber's brother, of course, but this guy's a forward. He plays with a tough physical edge like his brothers, got some undercover skill, still has a way to go to develop his game. But I think any time you get into an organization with your brother, that comfortability, and it takes away some of the unexpected, so you can start to hit the ground running. And I like that about this pick with Jacki.
All right, we're going to hit the ground. We're going to hit the draft floor here. EJ and Jackie are down there with a very special guest. Guys?
We certainly are. Patrick Marleau in the house to hang out with us for a little bit. How have you been enjoying Nashville, sir? Out of 10, let's say.
Oh, it's been great. I don't know, probably like a 8 or 9. I mean, this is all.
That's a good score.
Yeah, it's fun to kind of see what's going on behind the scenes as opposed to being on the ice. So it's a learning curve for myself.
Many years back,
Go ahead,
you were second overall draft pick. I think it was
From
98.
27, yeah.
97, there you go, right? Even further, sorry.
Yeah, well,
Trying to give you an extra year
I
there.
know.
But so you were experienced that as a young man,
Next order
and now here you are in a different role. How has it looked to you now at this stage of your life?
It takes you back to when you were drafted, and you kind of put yourselves in these guys' position again, and the family, and all the excitement. Having your family here, friends, to celebrate all the work that these kids have been putting in all their lives, and all the sacrifices the parents have been making, and siblings. So it's fun to see the emotion and these players get drafted.
Yeah, we've had some really good family reactions here on day 2. Loud, proud, as they should be. And that's really, what it's all about, is watching dreams come true. But you talk about the different perspective you have now, obviously, as opposed to way back. Were you 17 when you got drafted? Yeah, I mean, that is young. I mean, Connor Bedard, right, first overall, is 17. And you forget how young that is until you start chatting with a 17-year-old. And you're like, oh, yeah, you're like so young. But you talk about seeing this from a different perspective. Like, what kinds of things are you learning kind of behind the scenes?
Just kind of how the rundown, how they get to the players that they're going to pick, and how they can start crossing names off, and seeing what's next available, and what our needs are as a club and things like that. So it's pretty interesting.
Yeah, it's funny because the guy that was in that picture with you, Tim Burke, he's still at that table and still an integral part of the San Jose Sharks when it comes to drafting young players.
Yeah, it's great to have him, and I'm trying to, learn as much as I can from all the staff that they have, and it's a great staff.
What do you remember most about your draft day? Like, was there any funny stories or interesting things that happened maybe behind the scenes in the lead up to the actual moment?
I don't know if any funny stories or anything like that, but what I remember most is how busy you get right after. It's a whirlwind. Once your name's called, then you're swept off
You're
media.
being shuffled around.
It's a whirlwind. But then what I enjoyed was hearing like all my teammates and buddies getting drafted later on. So and then being able to go out and celebrate with friends and family after was probably the biggest thing.
And again, you're connected to Joe Thornton, who was drafted first. You were drafted second. Inevitably, you would become teammates and be teammates for quite a while. What were your memories of your relationship with Joe at that time? Did you have one?
Yeah, so we had played under 18 together, and became friends, obviously, through there. And then when you're going through the draft, you get to go to these, little pod things where you go to the Stanley Cup Finals. Yeah, so you spend time with these guys. I spent time with Joe and a lot of the other top picks that year, and you get to become friends, and and get to know each other.
Who knew you were going to be teammates years
I know.
later?
Life
And he would
is
have
so
a huge
funny.
beard.
A famous, iconic, really.
That's right.
Iconic. Well, we are in Nashville, and Nashville has grown so much over the last couple of decades. It's really been crazy to see. But you can't be in Nashville and not talk about country music or karaoke. Patrick Marleau, you don't strike me as a karaoke guy, but if you were to get on stage, like if you're forced to perform a karaoke song, what song would you select?
Oh boy,
It's the hard-hitting journalism right
country,
now.
I think.
Okay.
Something
Well, that
country.
would be the first smart decision in this town, I think.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe I'll go something Garth Brooks, Friends in Low Places or something.
Yeah, the great choice.
Yeah, because you know what? Then you just get the crowd involved, and you can leave.
Yeah.
But like,
they won't be able to hear me sing.
That's
no,
right.
but you know why that's a great choice? Because it's a country music icon, and it is a song that everyone loves. So as long as you
That's
get up
right.
and you do a song everyone loves, they don't care how you sound because they're going to be singing along with you.
Exactly.
But thanks for playing along with my hard-hitting journalism, Patrick. I really appreciate it. Thanks for stopping by. Enjoy the rest of the day.
And good luck with everything.
Yeah, thank you guys. All right. Appreciate it.
All right, we are going to take a quick time out here on NHL Network, but our draft coverage continues on the other side. We are in round 4. Stick around.
Next overall selection belongs to the New York Islanders.
Welcome back to the 2023 Upper Deck NHL Draft, rounds 2 through 7, 2-3 in the books. We are past the halfway point here of round number 4. While we were away, Sam, a couple of names, familiar names, going off the board here. As we show you the board, who are some of these guys, and what should we know about them?
108, Ottawa finally jumps into the game there. Bane Pettinger is the advisor for Hoyt Stanley, who will go to Cornell next year. 6'3", 191-pound right shot defenseman, had 38 points in 58 games. But the interesting element to him is, we talked about that Bedard group with Matthew Wood and Zach Benson and Andrew Crystal. Well, this is the 5th member of that group. They needed someone to play defense, so Stanley was that guy. The next guy I'm looking at is Buffalo, Ethan Miedema. So interesting story there is, he's playing with the Windsor Spitfires. They're having a great year. They're starting to load up, and as part of the load up, they trade for Shane Wright. So Miedema moves to Kingston, moves a little bit closer to home. Really tough adjustment for him at that point. Not only for leaving friends, he had a really good setup in Windsor, but now it's the pressure of being traded for Shane Wright. It's the pressure of going to a new place that's a rebuilding place in Kingston. The two elements about this guy, he's a rig. Like, this guy is a rig. And he could shoot the puck, shoot it extremely hard. We'll see if he can kind of take his game forward here with Kingston while getting some more opportunities in a team where he doesn't have to play in the middle 6. Joey Willis is another guy from Saginaw. Nashville Predators take him. Rookie, all-rookie team in the OHL this year. Playing for the Saginaw Spirit. The interesting element to him, he'll get a chance to play in the Memorial Cup next year. A rarity that the Memorial Cup is played in the U.S. market. Saginaw is deserving of that. Remember this name, Michael Misa. He's the latest of the exceptional players. We'll see him not next year, but the year after. And then you've got Jaden Lipinski. Got to know him a little bit. Hockey Gives Blood ambassador, Calgary Flames. Big guy, moves the puck well. For the Vancouver Giants, Barclay Pernetta, they're out there looking at Lankow's kid in Arizona, and they keep getting their eyes on this Lipinski, and they're like, Lipinski? Yeah, pretty good. So they ended up listing him, and of course he ends up having a good year with the Vancouver Giants. Another big body for the Calgary Flames.
Our most recent name off the board at 114, Luca Pinelli to the Columbus Blue Jackets. While we wait on news here from Nashville, we send it back downstairs to Jackie, EJ, and a Stanley Cup champion, guys.
Yes, congratulations continue to be in order for one George McPhee, fresh off the Vegas Golden Knights and their Stanley Cup victory. Congratulations again.
Thank you.
Roughly how much sleep you think you've gotten since we saw Mark Stone and everybody else lifting that cup high in the sky?
It's been better lately. The first 4 or 5 days were pretty wild.
As they should be, as they should be.
You know, George, we talked a little bit on the ice that night afterwards. You've had a little time now to have it sink in, but you're a great college player. You played in the NHL. You've been in management for a long time. It's a lifetime, and now here you are, a Stanley Cup champion. Has it sunk in yet that your name is going to be on that Stanley Cup?
It seems to catch you every day. Because you get up thinking about the draft and everything else, and then you sit back and go, we won the Stanley Cup a couple of weeks ago. And even after our parade, one of the cup keepers said, players have this from 1 to 5 tomorrow. I can bring it over to your house for dinner if you want. And he did. And I'm driving down the street, and they're in the driveway washing the beer off it before they bring it into our house. I said, there's the Stanley Cup.
Yeah.
And my family was all there, and I just ordered a bunch of pizzas, and we're looking at all the names on the trophy and everything else, and the teams I used to like when I was a kid and used to follow. And then I had sort of a moment where I had to walk away and go outside, and because it was just, it got emotional. The family didn't know about it. I just went outside and then came back in because you're thinking about your parents and your brothers and all your buddies. It's an emotional thing.
Yeah, I'm glad you got to take that moment to yourself sometimes to just really actually take it in and recognize exactly, what you've accomplished and what it took to get there. When
you almost don't get a chance to take it. It hits you.
Seattle selects
I need to go for a walk here so nobody sees what I'm about to do here.
Well, because when the win becomes official on the ice, right? It's like immediately there's so much happening, and it's like sensory overload, I'm sure, for the entire organization. And then all of the celebrations that follow, and eventually you get that moment, which it sounds like you had at home, where you go, oh wow, this is really feeling real now. When you look back on the journey to get to that moment, what was the most rewarding part of the journey to the top of that mountain?
In the last year or so, or from year one?
I would say, I guess, so however you want to answer it.
Yeah. For me, it's sort of the uplift that you give to the community. And as I said before, I wish we had done it in the first year because Las Vegas needed it that year. But we kept putting good teams on the ice. And then to see the way that Las Vegas has responded has been amazing. And we are Vegas born. We're not a team that relocated or anything like that. And I remember when we first went to Vegas, there was a lot of civic pride that this is our first professional team. And then we ended up putting good teams on the ice, and the support was incredible. And I guess, when we turned the corner at that parade, because I wasn't sure what it was going to be like, turned the corner, and there were hundreds of thousands of people on the street. Wow. Like, holy smokes, this is amazing. This is a moment.
Yeah, it was amazing to watch on television and being there. I commented to Jackie a couple times. I mean, the building is state-of-the-art. The whole thing, right from the top all the way down, you guys have done an unbelievable job, and it's obviously the product on the ice is great. I want to ask you, just because we've talked about, like, again, you have all these different connections in hockey your whole life. You probably got a million texts and calls from people's congratulations. One or two that stood out for you that you were like, wow, that's really cool.
Well, I think it's you just hear from so many people a lot that you haven't talked to in years, and they somehow find you. And it's every day is kind of a new adventure. It's like, holy smokes, this is a kid that lived behind us a block away that I haven't talked to in 30 years. And so it is amazing how nice everybody's been. You hope it lasts more than a couple of weeks, but. It's just an incredible journey that's really, really hard to explain. But it's nice to sort of be in the club.
Oh, I bet it is. We're running out of time with you, but I do want to ask you really quickly just about locking up Ivan Barbashev. This happened yesterday before the first round got underway. Watching Barbie during that run through the playoffs and then in the Cup final, when were you like, all right, we got to figure out a way to keep this guy around in Vegas for a little longer?
Yeah, well, we were talking to Aiden Hill for a while and to Barbie, trying to get it done. I'm not sure what we could do because
limitations.
And we're delighted that looks like we're there on Aiden and Barbie's done. Unfortunately, it cost us Riley Smith, who is just a heck of a hockey player, an outstanding human being. Unfortunately, the salaries are going up and the cap isn't. And you have to make really tough decisions. We never thought we'd have to do that with Riley, which is a shame. We're going to miss him. But, the organization comes first. The individual comes a close second. We've said that a number of times. And you just have to make the hard decisions and keep going.
And you've proven to be an organization that can make those hard decisions for the better in the long run for the team. And for Riley Smith, hey, reached the mountaintop with
That's
you guys
right.
as
Sure
an
did.
original
Always a
six
part of it.
misfit. So he goes out on a high note.
Stanley Cup champion.
Exactly. George, thank you so much for the time. We
Yeah.
really appreciate it. And
Congratulations.
enjoy your summer. You have earned it.
Yeah, it starts next week.
Countdown's on. Enjoy the rest of the draft. J-Mo, we'll go back to you.
All right, Jackie, Jay, and George, thank you very much. Yeah, that is the ultimate goal, is to win the Stanley Cup. For these youngsters today, this is the first step. It's getting drafted, and while they were interviewing George McPhee, a couple of those dreams came true. Jason, familiar with a couple of these names, Nurmi, Pinelli, and Shagabay.
Yeah, so let's go to Jesse Nurmi, New York Islander pick. His element is speed, guys. He brings a speed element, plays the game both quick and fast. The best work that he provides for the group is off the rush. His impact is off the rush. He backs opponents off. Chip and chase might be the best option for him, but he gets it deep, and he's got relentless energy. He really does. He's finishing a little bit around the net here in some of these clips. These are bonus clips. Really, it's what happened to get to this stage here on his zone entries. Having said all that, he's got average to average plus puck skill overall, so he's going to be more of an energy provider on projection at the NHL level as a pro if he arrives. When we get into Luca Pinelli from the Ottawa 67s, again, we're getting into a guy at 5'9", 170 pounds, Sammy. He had a nice, listen, Ottawa had a great year, a really good year. He's a skill guy, right? He's a skill forward, does his best work on the power play. For me, excellent hands. Again, I keep coming back to it, but it's a skill set in this draft draft class. Real quick catch and release. He's got really good mitts.
I love his hands.
Yeah.
He can really handle the puck. That's his element. Of course, his brother Francisco, an LA pick.
Right, and again, guys like this that are smaller, Reader, you and I keep going back because they play their weak side flank. They open up the ice. It's in front of them the whole time. They're not getting accosted from a back checker, coming late behind them. So they always know what's going on in front of them. It's a crafty little maneuver that these smaller players have, learned how to adapt. The last guy I want to go to is from Green Bay, really Warroad High School as well in Minnesota there, Jason Shagaby. His numbers at the high school level were insane. 29 games played, 92 points. When he went to Green Bay, 16 points in 27. He's not a big body, and his skating has got to come, all right? He absolutely needs to go to another level with his agility, his explosiveness, and his open ice separation. What you can't teach is what he can do with the puck. His handles are elite. He's got a really sneaky release, playmaker as well. So the hands are there, the offensive brain is there, the feet have to come.
All right, Reader, I know you want to talk about Cam Squires to the Devils at 122, but we need to give a shout out to Juha Jatkola, a goaltender from Finland. This kid was passed over in the last 3 entry drafts. So the 4th time's the charm. Congratulations to him. Reader, Cam Squires.
Squires plays in Cape Breton in the QMJHL. He's from Charlottetown, PEI. 30 goals in 67 games. That pretty much doubles what he did the year before. He had 16 in 64. Really found himself a beautiful skater, smooth playmaker, sees the ice extremely well from the right side. He's an excellent player in transition, and when you're a winger in transition game, you really need to understand where you're going, because it's the defense of the centers. A lot of times the guy's breaking up plays, and as a winger, you got to be prepared to go the other way. He has that. His high ceiling IQ is really something the Devils are going to sit, and you can wait for this young guy to develop. But when you see talked about, he's got a good IQ, he's a smart player. That's usually something that it's like, well, we can wait for this young guy to develop. At 6 feet, he's 165 pounds, lots of room to grow in this body, but I like this pick by the Devils. A nice player who sees the ice extremely well.
All right, Jason, how about at 123, Luca Cagnoni, a defenseman for the Sharks?
This is why you go to games right here. So in regular season, when you go watch Luca play, his skill set comes to the forefront. Two-way transitional defenseman, active on the offensive blue line, makes plays, joins the rush off the puck, a little bit of risk reward in regular season. He's a plus player. Portland's a good team. Come playoff time, guys, you go back. This is why you do it. Harder games, okay? Harder to defend, not as much ice to go on offense to play to your element. His detail falls off, so his warts come to the surface more in playoffs. So I know the offense is there, but the off-the-puck detail and the defensive commitment, Reader, at the hardest time of the year, that has to go to another level.
But you know what? For him, the only undrafted player to play in the NHL top prospects game. So Mike Johnson, the head coach, general manager in Portland, goes to watch him skate. A half hour later, he signs this guy. when you get a player like that for free after going undrafted in the WHL Bantam draft, and all of a sudden he's a draft pick, that is huge for your organization. And of course,
ahead,
we're
Dallas.
picking late here. You're going to see some things where you're seeing some deficiencies. But hey, you've got the chip in the chair to get in the game.
As Sam, we see Beckett Hendrickson here making his way down to the draft floor, drafted at 124 by the Boston Bruins. We know his dad, Darby. What do we know about Beckett?
Yeah, it's nice. He's been through it, before, having been around the game for such a long time. Played in the BioSteel All-American game. And you see at 6'2", 174 pounds. I mean, this guy has the opportunity to do some things down low, work along the boards. Point production, decent. Minnetonka, Minnesota guy. And anytime you come from NHL bloodlines, I think you're given the benefit of the doubt for Hendrickson. Nice to see him go to Boston.
At 125, Aram Manetian. Dallas Stars, Mike Kelly, a defenseman out of the U.S. development program.
Well done, Dallas Stars. Had this guy projected at 47th overall, so to get him at 125, I think is a great thing. He's got a lot of get up and go in his game. You take a look at his trend line this season, finished strong relative to other prospects as well. I think a Brandstrom, Gerard kind of type game. He's under 6 feet tall, but man, he's got energy. He can skate. I think a little bit of less is more in his game as a development will benefit him. Tries to do a little bit too much sometimes at time, but he can absolutely go. Hits as well. I really like this pick for the Dallas Stars, being able to get him at this spot in the draft.
He's a guy who appreciates the play of a Drew Doughty, a Cale Makar, a Bowen Byron, but I don't think he's necessarily that guy. Having said that, he does provide offense. He is a London Knights pick. Be interesting to see what his future holds for Aram Manetian. But a guy I got to spend some time with over the course of this year, sitting down with him in Plymouth at the under-18 program, getting a chance to know him. He's a gold medal winner, so you have to like that about him. Anytime you have winning pedigree, I think that's something that can be really appreciated because it's difficult to win. He did it with the U.S., that 3-2 overtime win at the under-18s over Sweden in overtime.
If anybody wants to take the time to Google his last 5 minutes in the gold medal game against Sweden, game on the line, blocking shots with his face the one time. I mean, he put it on the line. Tells you something about a kid when your gold medal's on the line and you're doing all those little things. It's important.
Final selection in the 4th round belongs to
All right, so
Montreal.
a couple of picks going by here. Stanislav Yarovoy to the Carolina Hurricanes, and then Albert Wickman here for the Florida Panthers. That's 126, 127. One more pick coming up here by the Habs to round out round number 4. How would you assess the pace this year, Reader, compared to years past? I mean, last year we barely had time to breathe in round 2 and 3, and here we are, and it seems like some teams are taking a little bit more time this time around.
And that was kind of expected, though, because we always talked about how strong this group is. The 05 group, an extremely strong group, some late 04s. And when you have better players, or you think they're going to be better players down the road, it might take you a little more time to discuss that. Teams may want to bump up, maybe take a flyer on some. And we've seen just a few trades. But we're way ahead of the pace when we started with Sammy, when you were still in the COVID time. When you were,
oh my!
I don't know what room you were in.
I was in the penalty box back at Sportsnet. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
You
were asking for food the whole day. It was an 8-hour. It was an 8-hour draft.
They slipped a little water and bread on the set at one of the commercial breaks, so I was pretty happy to have that.
Those are memories that we'll never forget of the NHL Day 2 draft.
All right, the last pick in round number 4 by the Habs was Quentin Miller. He's a goaltender from the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League. He led the queue and all rookie goaltenders in save percentage this past year, a 911, a minimum of 15 games played. So that concludes round number 4. As we look ahead to round number 5, some notable 5th round draft picks among active players: Jamie Benn, Brendan Gallagher, Zach Hyman, John Klingberg, Connor Hellebuck, and Kirill the Thrill Kaprizov. So the Anaheim Ducks up first here in round number 5. And there is their pick, Rodwin Dionisio, at 129.
That guy in Dionisio benefited from a trade moving from Niagara to London, or to Windsor rather. Ended up with 15 goals this year. So a 6'2", 207-pound left shot defenseman from Newark, New Jersey. That had him 8th, those 15 goals in terms of OHL defensemen. So again, you're looking at a guy, and it's interesting. when you get down here, JB, how much does size play a factor? If you're looking at a couple of different guys and you're thinking, all right, well, we might need a puck mover, we might need this guy. How much does size play a factor when you get to this part of the draft?
Well, it absolutely starts to play into it. But again, I can't discount the fact it depends on the cycle your team's in. What your depth chart looks like. If you have a new coach at the American League level, the NHL level, maybe a new general manager, there's a lot of things in motion, but all things being equal, guys, size still matters. If you can, at this point in the draft, for me, can't skate, can't think, can't play. That's how I start to look at it, okay? So you better be able to give me something there, because some of your other elite elements aren't as good as your counterparts at this stage, but you better be able to move and get there because it's just too fast.
That's what my hockey resume would say. If we threw up the board of my career, can't think, can't skate, can't play, can't do anything. The Sharks can do something, and at 130, they select Axel Landin. He's a defenseman from HV71 Junior over in the Swedish Junior League. His stats for the past season, 44 games played. He scored 10 goals, 6 assists for 16 points. You can see his prospect board right there. We had him ranked at 148, so coming in right around there at 130. Oh, I like this one. This one's easy. Marcel for the Chicago Blackhawks here at 131.
I can just comment on Axel Landin. He was trending up for me at the end of the year, at the under-18 Worlds. He's just a two-way kind of shutdown guy. Deployed at even strength, and on the penalty kill, there he bodied up, take the gap. I like that. This is a low-risk guy at the right part of the draft. I mean, he doesn't have elite offensive skill set, but he's a gamer. He plays hard, he competes, he's part of their leadership group, and he's a role guy, and there's nothing to merit that.
On 3 different occasions, part of the leadership group, so I think that speaks volumes. You get to the national team, you're getting the cream of the crop, and you still get to wear a letter. He did so at the World Junior A Challenge, the Helenka, and of course there at the World Under-18s.
Has there ever been a player to make the NHL with the same first and last name? Do we know that?
We saw an Ivan at a Bathurst, Acadie Bathurst a couple of years ago. He has not made the NHL yet, but we're looking for him.
How about Eric Polkamp here? A defenseman from Cedar Rapids in the USHL. He was passed over in the 2022 NHL Draft, so congratulations to him. He was just named the 2022-23 USHL Defenseman of the Year. Eric Polkamp to the Sharks.
You know what I find interesting, and also at this point, if I'm part of a scouting staff or a general manager, I'm starting to think about guys that might have been through the draft a couple of times. Montreal. You might have more physical maturity, more mental maturity. You might see those late bloomer type of guys. I think there's a little bit more certainty in this world of uncertainty when it comes to the draft. What's the process there, JB? Do you think about that at all? That guys that have been through a couple times before?
So I do, and there's 2 ways to attack it though. It depends what their clock is. So if I'm taking a guy who's been passed over, he's still at the USHL level, he's going to college, or he's a freshman who's been passed over, he's still going to be in college. So I'm going to have 2 or 3 years on those guys still to try and mine out some of their deficiencies. I have to take that into account. A major junior guy, of course, Reader, if I think a guy from your Peterborough team back in the day and he's 19, 20 years old, I got to sign him or send him back as an OA to you for 1 more year. So it's different.
It all depends as well. Teams are looking to say, you know what, I want you to go in and play in my American Hockey League team. We're not going to worry about you playing with us right now. We want you to step up to get you to that next level because we see something in you, and that's sometimes where you'll see players being drafted over, the first or second time because it's like we want you in our organization. We want to put you right into our American League team. We want to start developing you. So you do see that in the later rounds because teams are afraid that no, you know what? Maybe I've heard that this team is thinking of signing him, inviting him to a rookie camp, thinking of signing him, and it's like no, we want him because we think there's potential there and. Even though he's been passed over, they'll be taking him.
That's an excellent point. Don't discount that. When you get the intel on the floor that somebody's going to sign a kid coming, out of this draft, if he gets passed over, or development camp, because we have relationships with the agents. That's a very good point. Grab him if you like him, own him, see where it goes.
Well, Sam Harris, another guy that was passed over in last year's draft. He's a left winger from Sioux Falls in the USHL, committed to the University of Denver. Then you have Melker Tallinn for the Arizona Coyotes at 134. You can see the prospect board here on Sam Harris. We had him at 215, so jumping up a couple of spots there at 133. Carter Sutherland for the Philadelphia Flyers at 135.
It's been fun to watch things shake down in this draft. And I think back to yesterday, guys, no trades whatsoever, but you're looking at a couple of interesting picks. But coming into day 2, I think there was a lot of teams that felt really strongly about what they were going to get in day 2. And even as we moved into the 4th round, we're seeing some guys that early on in the draft process would have been projected as top 60 guys. And as it kind of flushes out, then you end up seeing exactly where they go. And of course, that opportunity presents for themselves. But JB, you said it best. When we signed off last night, you said it's like round 1.5. Like everyone kept their picks yesterday, and we knew the first 15 or so picks would be guys that teams would have had on their list in the 1st round. And so I think that's why we boogied through it pretty good.
Reader, this guy's on your list, Cameron Allen, Washington Capitals. This guy's a specimen. At the Combine this past year, finished top 10 in 11 different events.
Not a real surprise with that. What is a surprise that he dropped to the 5th round? I expected maybe a late 2nd throughout the 3rd. I really didn't expect that he was going to get through the 3rd round. He was captain of Team Canada, the U18s, great leadership qualities. He was taken 3rd overall in the 2021 OHL draft by Guelph from the Toronto Young Nationals. He was 2021-2022 OHL Rookie of the Year. This guy has been a stud of a defenseman since he was about 14 years old. His progression hasn't got to that next level. Some are questioning sometimes the decision-making under pressure for Cam Allen, and I think at the U18 he struggled a little bit with that. But his leadership abilities, his poise, and his ability with the puck, and his ability to make plays when given time is as good as anybody's out there. And his production definitely dropped to Guelph in the OHL. That's probably why he dropped this far down. I think the Capitals got a real steal here. He's a player that understands where he's going. Because of his great numbers at the Combine, he understands how his improvement where he needs to improve, and he's focused enough that he's going to be able to do that. And I really expected Cam Allen to go much earlier, and I think the Caps got a great pick.
He's trying to figure out what his identity is for Cam, because he came in as a 16-year-old and put up points, and I think he felt he was going to be a points guy. That continued through the summer at the Hlinka. He was the captain of that team, and now you thought he was off and running as probably the first defenseman off the board if we take you back to last August. Then he struggled to put up points. The Guelph team that had a lot of expectations on it, it struggled too. Cam put a lot of that on himself and realized that he had to kind of take a step back and assess his own game before being worrying about what the team was doing. So now I think Cam has figured out what he has to be. And JB, at the CHL NHL Top Prospects game, I loved his game. He played simple, a little tiny deception in terms of initiating the breakout, played with a little physicality in his game, but wasn't so much worried about getting up ice and producing points, realizing that, hey, I'm best suited to kind of be a hang-back type of guy and a guy who needs to be tough to play against with some physicality. Let the points come later. Don't even worry about the points.
We just saw some interesting footage there on the St. Louis pick, Paul Fisher from the U.S. national team development program. And this is another one of those glue guys, similar to Axel Landin there from who San Jose selected from Sweden. 2 AD on projection. I don't even know if it's really secondary offense guys that he's going to produce. Good feet, sound game management, low risk with the puck, all real good, safe attributes. He takes care of his zone first, keeps it in front of him. Nothing the matter with that.
You know what's cool about Paul Fisher? So I sat down and interviewed him at the program this year, and he's got a stuffy named Duke. It's been his good luck
charm. What's a stuffy? Like a stuffed animal?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Named Duke?
Named Duke.
I like that.
And so I think Duke is in the house, if not at the hotel for sure. So Duke's brought him luck here to be picked by St. Louis. 138th overall. Way to go, Duke. Way to go, Fish.
Well, Jackie and EJ are in the house as well, and they have a special guest down on the draft floor. Guys?
Yeah, we do not have any stuffed animals with us, but we do have the executive director of USA Hockey, Pat Kelleher, joining us here on the side. Said, how are you? I mean, we've heard a lot of USHL, National Team Development Program, and kids coming out of the USA Hockey.
Yeah, we like hearing those names announced. Everything's been a great, as usual, great draft for American players. Very exciting just for all these players to be recognized, selected by these teams, the next step in their hockey career. But as you both know, it takes a lot to get these kids where they are. Their families, their youth coaches, the volunteers that help get them up through the ranks to go to the USHL, the North American Hockey League, high school, prep school, and our National Team Development Program. So a very exciting couple days for everybody in our sport.
How important of a week is this for you and for the people who are running USA Hockey to be here and meeting with all different types of people, including obviously the brass from the NHL as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's great to celebrate the players first and foremost,
Yeah.
right? That's what everybody's excited about. But to see all these different team representatives, to spend some time with Commissioner Bettman, Deputy Commissioner Daly, it's important. I mean, they fortunately are incredible partners to USA Hockey, the league, and all the 25 U.S.-based clubs. So it's great to be here. Thank them for all they do and continue to make sure we work together to grow the game, make sure we have more players that come up to this level next year.
We talk about growing the game, and this becomes an annual tradition for us to have this conversation with you at the NHL Draft every year. So give us kind of an update on the overall state of USA Hockey.
We are very fortunate. It's in a good state right now. The state of the union for USA Hockey is pretty strong. We have players, player participation, kids back playing back where we were before the pandemic as far as numbers across the country. Really strong rebound. Overall for the game. And then for us, last year we sent 6 teams to World Championship and picked up 5 medals, 3 of them gold. So internationally to grassroots, we feel pretty strong where things are at with USA Hockey.
How about the summer? I mean, there's always events going on. People think, oh, it's July, you have to take a break. There's camps, there's other events going on. What's the summer look like for you and for USA Hockey moving forward?
Yeah, we turn the clock pretty quick on the next season this summer. There's all sorts of player development camps from the boys' side or in Buffalo. Our girls, 16, 17, 18s, they're in Miami of Ohio for their summer programs. We're the World Junior Summer Showcase in Plymouth
right?
at our arena. Yeah. And then in August, we have a women's festival with 3 levels of women's teams, U18, a college team, and then our national team, all in Lake Placid. And we'll invite Canada in for a couple of 3 games at the U18, 3 games at the college series. So it's a busy summer. It's great. We get the touch point with a lot of players over the summer, men's and women's.
I'm reading here too that you've had a record number of female players and coaches in 2022-23. Can you tell us a little bit more about that and why you think that might be?
It goes back to probably a long time ago. You go to 1998 when our women won the first gold medal. We had 20,000 females registered in USA Hockey. When we won the gold medal in 2018 with our women, we had 20,000 8 and underage girls in USA Hockey. And this past season, we went over 90,000 female members, female players, participants in USA Hockey programs. And now we have that generation that grew up playing, now giving back as coaches, as officials. They're coming back in the game on the female side, and it's great. That helps bring more girls into hockey when they see female role models as coaches and officials as part of our game. So it's a never-ending cycle, which is great for us and great for the
girls
game.
and women can play too. We love the game, and I love to read things like that and see the growth on the women's side as well at USA Hockey. Thank you so much for the time, Pat. Enjoy the rest of the draft. Whatever you're going to get up to in Nashville, I don't know if you're flying out after this or not. I won't make you tell the public any of those plans, but enjoy the time and enjoy the summer.
And try to have some fun this summer.
We'll do what we can. Thanks, CJ.
Right.
Thanks, Jackie.
All right, coming up on the other side, we continue with round 5 of the NHL Draft. The New York Islanders getting ready to select at 1:45. We'll be right back.
Islanders select from Mount Justin Gill.
Welcome back to the 2023 Upper Deck NHL Draft, rounds 2 through 7 here in Nashville. You can get your free downloadable 2023 Upper Deck NHL Draft set by using the QR code on your screen. Jason, I don't know how familiar you are with the old QR code phenomenon, but you are familiar with some of the names that just went off the board while we were in commercial break. Tell us about those.
Well, I want to just zero in on a goaltender that the Buffalo Sabres selected, Scott Ratzlaff. And this is a guy that flies under the radar a little bit because he was mostly a backup down the stretch to Team Canada goaltender Thomas Milic, who won gold in Halifax. Ratzlaff's an interesting pick, guys. 6'1", 175. He's a real compact in the net. Like, he's tight. Like, his arms are tight to his body. He leans butterfly athletic to me overall. Quick pads, good low net coverage. That little play there, tight to the post, that's interesting. That's a hard save, believe it or not, tracking from behind the net. He had a great regular season, didn't get the net in the playoffs. This is a good pick. I mean, Dustin Wolf went real late to the Calgary Flames a few years ago. This is a sneaky good pick by the Buffalo Sabres.
Raider at 147. I have 2 young kids. All they do is bicker. What about Kevin Bicker here to the Red Wings?
Well, you wouldn't be bickering with Kevin because he's the type of guy that would probably pop you in the nose if you started bickering. I mean, he's a very aggressive, very physical player. He's got great straight line speed. Really enjoyed watching him play against his peers at the U18 level. This guy can absolutely fly. He's got great speed. Very physical player. And the problem with really evaluating Kevin at his peer level is that Germany has not been strong at the U20 level for the last few years. But Vicker's been that one player, when you watch him play, he really steps up. He really stands out watching him play. And he uses his speed to his advantage. He can get in hard and forechecks. He's not afraid to get physical. I like this pick by the Red Wings. He's a player that's going to need some time to develop, to understand the game a little better, because sometimes his speed goes his mind goes a little faster than his feet at times. But every time you watch him play, he's the guy when you're watching Germany internationally. He's like, yes, this is a guy who has really stepped up. In the U20 league in Mannheim, he had 21 points in 20 games, and that's battling injury throughout the course of the season. But I thought Vicker, he was passed over in last year's draft. I thought he might go a little bit earlier, but Red Wings got a nice pick here, and it doesn't hurt to help bring someone in from Germany. Mo Sider probably knows Kevin Vicker.
Absolutely.
Probably played with him a few
guy.
years back, and it'd be an easy transition.
One guy just wanted to point out here, doubling down on Sammy's, our conversation we had about older guys a few minutes ago. Jacob Julian from the London Knights got selected by the Winnipeg Jets. He's a September 2004 birthday. He's one of the older guys here to get selected. Just really coming into his own at the major junior level. Tall, lean, excellent skater. A little bit of Alex Formanton to him in open ice in terms of his stride. Offense is on the come see. We'll see. But here's the guy that I'm talking about later on. You have the brain, you have the feet. It gives you a chance. Let's see if we can fit a role.
Same as Justin Gill, Sherbrooke. Same, 93 points this year. Played with Gauthier, played with Joshua Rock from Canada's World Junior Team. I like that pick. There we are, going down the older road again.
Mike Kelly at 150. Matthew Maniat, the LA Kings defenseman from Sudbury.
Absolutely. 6 feet, 190 pounds. He had 38 points in 67 games this past season. As with any player picked at this point in the draft, you're looking at a bit of a project, right? And I think on the high end, some people see a player that's still pretty raw, that has more upside, more to give potentially. He's able to make incredible plays with the puck. He's got a lot of creativity in his game, likes to get into the rush. Thinking the game, the details of the game, those are the things where other scouts are thinking. Not sure what is going to translate to the NHL. From a data profile standpoint, I like the pick at 150, but like I said, not unusual at this point of the draft that you're going to have a project here, and we'll see what the upside ends up being.
All right, Mike, thank you very much. At 151, Sam Thomas Milic, a goaltender from Seattle.
Man, I'm so happy for this young man. He and Scott Ratzlaff, who was picked 141 by Buffalo, were teammates with the Seattle Thunderbirds. So it's not often you see two goalies from the same team drafted, and here they are drafted in the same spot. It was Milic who had the net for the most of the year and through the playoffs for sure, and won Canada a gold medal. Everywhere he goes, he puts up numbers. Under 17, save percentage is .925. Under 18s, it's up at .932. Goes to the World Juniors. The save percentage again, up at .928. Seattle Thunderbirds. Everywhere he goes, you have to take that into consideration at some point. But as a 6-foot goaltender, it's going to be a steep road to climb. Having said that, he's been told that his whole life. At every turn, he's answered the bell. Good for you, Thomas Milic. Take advantage of the opportunity given to you.
All right, we had Chase Cheslock go to the New Jersey Devils at 154, a defenseman out of Rogers High School. He was a finalist for the 2023 Minnesota Mr. Hockey Award. So Chase Cheslock going to the Devils at 154. All right, back down to the draft floor here with Jackie Nije.
Thank you so much, Jameson. We're thrilled to be joined by Flyers General Manager Danny Briere. How has it been so far, sir?
It's been exciting, especially yesterday. It was a blast. There was a lot of action. Maybe not for you guys so much because there was no trades, but there's a lot going on. And, we're obviously probably like all GMs that make selections in the first round. We're really happy.
You got to be used to that phrase. I can't believe he was still there.
Yeah, that's whatever we all use it, right?
That's the phrase. But Matvei Michkov, I mean, we talked about it prior to the draft yesterday. I was very fascinated in terms of how things were going to play out. He's obviously a very, very highly skilled player.
Yeah.
The world is in a kind of an odd place right now geopolitically. You guys, very stealth. You got him in. You talked to him.
Yeah.
What sold you on making him the pick? Because I love it for your organization.
Yeah, he came in and we had a small group where we first met with him, and when he left, we were blown away by how much he wanted to be a Flyer, how much he told us he wanted to play in the NHL, how his dream of winning a Stanley Cup was. And we said, we got to meet him again and include the whole organization to get everybody on board. And again, he came back for a second interview, and it was the same thing. He just blew all our scouts away, everybody that was involved in a bigger group. And we left and we felt comfortable that if he fell at 7, and there's still no guarantee that he would be there.
Yeah.
But when we saw that he was falling and he was available at 7, we felt the upside was just something we couldn't miss.
Sounds like the second impression was as good as the first one.
Certainly was.
How about after the selection? I'm sure as you're getting close to it, you're just kind of like, okay, just a couple more picks, and then you draft him. You know, have you talked to him after? What was What was the conversation for you guys after?
I don't know if you guys
official?
were able to see on the stage or if there's a camera, but his smile was just felt like genuine. He was so happy to be a Flyer. That's what he kept telling us. So. We feel good at the moment. Time will tell. You know, we think we have a special player, and that's kind of what we're looking for in the Flyers organization, game changers. So, like I said, time will tell what happens.
You know, it's funny. We had Patrick Marleau up here a few minutes ago, and I did. You know, he was a high draft pick. You were someone drafted, I believe it was 24th by the Phoenix Coyotes in your draft year. I'd just always like to get your impressions. I mean, you were such a young person at that time. You get, whizzed around. You were an unbelievable prospect. You had so many points. Some people say, well, is he going to be big enough to play? You were plenty big enough to play. But what's it like now, a couple of decades later, to be in this role and to watch these young kids again?
Yeah, it's the toughest part is not to find really the talent, but to find the passion in the kids. Who has the passion to go above and beyond to become an NHL player? That's probably the toughest part for our scouts when you're projecting 5, 6, 7 years ahead.
Yeah. How do you measure intangible things like that you don't necessarily see on the score sheet?
Because you had that. Because you had that. There was probably a lot of discussions about you as a young player. He's got all the points. He's got a lot of skill. This is a hard league. He's not the biggest guy. Does he have that inside to do it? And you probably had to prove that to those players, to those people who drafted you, and then throughout your career.
I think in scouting, that's why seeing the live views on the players are so important, because the video you can see different things, but the live viewing you can see behind the play, his interaction on the bench with the coaches, with his teammates, when the game is over, in warm-up. So you try to pick up on those little things that sometimes can be hints and the type of person they are also. But it's not an easy thing to do.
Yeah, body language after a good shift versus after a bad shift, etc. We just showed some of the selections on the screen there. And we saw Cole Knuble on that list. So you have a special connection to that player, I would imagine. Care to elaborate at all?
Yeah, and it's pretty cool because we saw Cole around the rink growing up.
That's got to feel a little weird for you.
So no, it's pretty cool. It's we're excited to bring Cole and the Knuble family. I asked him to get his old relics back, find him somewhere in the basement. So we're excited to have the chance to have him on our team.
And you can see the bloodlines. You also took Oliver Bonk in the first round, a defenseman. I believe it was 22nd overall. I mean, let's face it. We've seen this play out now time and time again. There's something to it that when you've had those connections at the highest level, you have a little bit of an advantage.
Yeah, I hope so. I remember myself the first time I got to an NHL training camp in a NHL dressing room. It's overwhelming if you've never been there before. I know I was stage fright for the first little bit. Sometimes when you have those guys that have been around, you've seen them run around the dressing room, there may be a little easier transition for them, we hope. But at the end of the day, it's down the road, 3, 4, 5 years down the road, what happens.
Well, the preparation for yesterday and then for today as well, it is immense what you guys do to prepare for this. Really, you prepare all year long. What have you learned through the process of getting ready for your first draft as the GM of the Philadelphia Flyers?
What have I learned? That it goes a lot faster when you're the GM. It might seem slow from the outside.
That's right.
Things were coming fast, hard and furious in that moment, right around the 7th pick. There's a lot of discussion, so it was fun. Probably the closest I've been to playing a game, so it was pretty exciting.
Was there a lot of phone calls from other teams as you got close? Because obviously he was a talented player. People don't know necessarily that you're going in that direction. Did you handle a few calls at that moment?
definitely. Yeah, there's some talks with different teams at the moment, with different things going on. So it's a pretty good rush.
Yeah.
Last one for you, and I'll make it quick because they're wrapping me. We're in Nashville. Go-to karaoke song for Danny Briere would be?
Oh my God, I didn't even think of that. I'm blanking. Nothing for you.
Something country, I guess.
Carey Price.
That's what.
Yeah.
Poor Carey Price. We love you, Carey. Sorry.
Danny, thank you for the
Thanks,
time. We
guys.
appreciate
Good luck.
it. All right, Jameson, back to you.
All right, Jackie, thank you very much. Yeah, things happening fast and furious here. Round 5 in the books. We're already 3 picks into round number 6. But, Reader, I know you wanted to go back to round number 5. Pick 148 to Seattle, Caden Hamill.
Easy pick for Seattle. He plays in Everett of the Western Hockey League. Right shot defenseman, 6'1", 173 pounds. Excellent skater. And the key to when you're reading scouting reports, you watch a player play, does he compete? And every scout and the reports, and you talk to guys, this kid competes. He can play defense. He can play up in the offensive game, 26 points in 67 games. This is an aggressive defender who engages in the game. And when you talk about compete and engagement, those are 2 words that most scouts or most GMs would like to hear about a young player. A nice pick by Seattle, kind of looking in their backyard over and over.
Pretty cool. He's traded for Olin Zellweger, who went back the other way to Kamloops, and the return for Zellweger was crazy. I think it was 14 pieces.
14 pieces.
And so Hamill was obviously a big part of that. When you identify someone in a trade like that, it means you really like him, and of course Seattle now feeling the same way.
All right, 3 picks now into round 6. Jason, last off the board, 163, Timur Muhanov.
Okay, so when I start to explain to viewers that you start to see trends and you start to get a feel for different teams and what they're going to do, this is a classic Carolina selection. So they go to Russia, they draft a 5'9", 180-pound Russian player, skilled guy. So first off, quick and fast, okay? So boom, he can skate. He cheats the zone. He's got a bunch of things that he's got to clean up, there's no question. But offensively, he wants the puck, and he knows what to do with it when he gets it on his stick. So when this year the scouts be fluid and effortless, so, I guess I could debate that in their war room, but this isn't the category to do it. But I'd say more quick than fast and open ice. Cheats it, but he's got an offensive element that projects as a possibility, guys, and that gives us a chance later in the draft.
The Devils at 164, Cole Brown. He's a left winger out of Hamilton in the O. He closed the OHL season this past year pretty strong, 12 points in the final 12 games. How heavily is that weighed when it comes to as we approach the draft? If you have a strong first half versus a strong close, does that have any kind of weight difference, do you think?
Well, Easton Cowan went in the first round to the Toronto Maple Leafs at 28th overall, and it was a marathon the season, and he finished very, very strong. But on the flip side of it is, and this is what I mean, I'm torn to give you a straight goods answer. Nick Lardis had a heck of a back half, and he went later than I think we probably expected he would as well. So, I don't know. It just depends on the appetite of the team.
Philip Eriksson, our latest pick at 165. The Habs making that selection. We got to take a quick timeout here. Our draft coverage of day number 2 from Nashville rolls on after this. Welcome back to the 2023 Upper Deck NHL Draft, rounds 2 through 7. We are flying through round number 6. Jason, 166, Carson Musser.
So this is an interesting one, guys. Big body goaltender, 6'4", 212 pounds. The backup to Trey Augustine at the U.S. National Team Development Program. At the Worlds at the end of the year, they kind of at the beginning when they were running away with games, they split the games and actually literally split a couple of games, like halfway through the game type of thing, which is always uncomfortable for a goalie, but they did. Listen, he is pretty compact. He's athletic. He moves well laterally. He didn't get big moments this year, but I like the risk. I'm okay with it. I think the mechanics are sound. He's going to CC. I don't know if he's going right in next year. A year in the USHL might happen ahead of that time. I think Madison has his rights, if I'm not mistaken. I'm doing this off the top of my head, but that's a good risk. It's a big goalie later in the draft. His timeline's 3-4 years. He's athletic. I like that.
At 171, we see Aiden Celebrini to the Vancouver Canucks. We better get used to that name, right? Next year?
I think they're setting the table for maybe doing a little friendship walk there, trying to attract the brother next year, Macklin Celebrini, but he won't be down on this board. There'll be a 1 in front of his name, but it won't be with the 72 beside it, I can tell you that.
Macklin Celebrini arguably would have been a first-round pick, Reader, this year.
Yeah,
As an
and could be top 5 pick.
Yeah, like he was
that good, or is that good right now?
Wow.
I was just thinking, well, if Vancouver's going to have a chance at Macklin Celebrini, they better dump half their players.
They're going to have a tough year.
They're going to have a tough year. They're going to have a tough time getting the #1 overall. That's
Matthew
for next
Mayich
year.
before that at 170 to the St. Louis Blues. 172, Ryan McPherson to the Flyers. Who's up now?
Sean Cohane. Buffalo selects Sean Cohane from Dexter School, Massachusetts.
All right, the Dexter School in Massachusetts. Sean Cohane. The Buffalo Sabres, certainly an up-and-coming youth movement there in Buffalo and starting to knock on the door. And one would assume that next year, I mean, between Ottawa, Detroit, and Buffalo, they're getting close.
One of them's got to go.
Which one?
Who's leaving, though?
Who's leaving?
We said Boston last year.
Yeah.
And look how that played out.
That's right. Can't move up unless someone doesn't get in. And we did have some changes this year.
Boston, Toronto, Tampa, and then you think of New Jersey, the Rangers on the other side, the Islanders, they're not going to go away. Like, it is tough.
It is tough.
Is it
is
tough?
Very tough. And you want to try to crack the top 3 for Buffalo or Ottawa or Detroit, but you just said Tampa, Florida, Toronto. And all of those teams are all in Boston. Yeah, there you go. And then to crack the top, to be in the playoffs, it's they are knocking on the door, which is great to see. Yeah, and they're going to keep doing it, and it's it will happen sooner than later.
But it's go time, and I know they're getting anxious in Buffalo. I mean, it's been a lengthy run. It's been a North American sports record type of run without the playoffs, and so now it's time to get going. But you're right. Like, is Pittsburgh really going to go away here? Is Washington going to go away? I think those teams are sort of on the back nine, but doesn't mean they're going away either. I mean, Pittsburgh is right on the doorstep at the end.
At 174, Cooper Foster to the Pittsburgh Penguins center from Ottawa in the OHL. I love this. He walked around his house in hockey skates at age 2. Parents put tape on the skates just for his safety, and I guess maybe to not damage the hardwood floors, right? Wow. That's dedication from the parents right there to get the kid on skates literally inside the house.
That's a good program, that Ottawa program. I mean, James Boyd, he does an unbelievable job. Dave Cameron, I spent a lot of time in the National Hockey League. They do a good job producing players. And I love this pick here at 174, Austin Roos, Stacy's son, who is assistant general manager with the Tampa Bay Lightning. I ran into him on the floor yesterday. I said, is Austin going here? He goes, I don't know. It was about as calm a dad as they've ever seen. Now, he's been through the process before.
Go ahead,
but
Calgary.
really kind of casually said, it's up to him now. I've done my part.
I paid the bills.
I paid the bills. Go get him, kid. Your turn now.
Well, Dad works for the Lightning, but his favorite team now, the Nashville Predators. Mike Kelly, what more do we know about Roost?
Yeah, well, as mentioned, he's a year older, right? So he's an 04 born, but had a breakout season for himself in Everett as in the #1 center role. He's 5'10", 175 pounds. Guy that's good on the forecheck. He's improved his two-way game. So again, you're taking an overager at this point of the draft. You're hoping you're seeing another year on top of that to kind of compound the little bit of a breakout that he had this past season. If you get that, you continue to progress. You never know, right? But as a 175 pick here, it's a good guy to make a bet on.
All right, Mike, appreciate it. 176, Igor Egorov for the Flames here. 177, that pick just coming in from the Islanders.
From USA Hockey National Team Development Program.
There you go, Zachary Schultz of the
next order of selection belongs
U.S.
to the
Development Program. We just heard from Pat Kelleher, the director of USA Hockey, and certainly it just seems like year after year we're seeing more of those kids go in round 1, 2, 3, and throughout this NHL draft.
Yeah, it's nice to see that because I think typically the U.S. Under-18 program was known for its higher-end picks, but now they're starting to extend the Schultz into the Fishers, the Fortescues, the Menidians, those types of players. And so when you play on that program, the best thing about that is the exposure you're getting. You're going to get the exposure of scouts coming to see the top-end players, but you're also going to get tons of exposure in the international events, the 4 nations, the 5 nations, the World Under-18s, which they typically go into with the best team. So it's nice to see that when you're playing a little bit down on the lineup and you get multiple looks in high-leverage situations, you might not have had that opportunity playing in another program or playing in the USHL, but when you're playing with the prominent national team, the multiple looks in high-leverage situations mean a lot.
So my takeaway on this kid, Schultz, is that he's one of those guys absolutely plays to an identity, even at the U.S. national team program. So this is a perfect Lou Lamoriello, New York Islander type pick. Two-way D, knows exactly what he is. I'm a low-risk guy. I get places on time. I get places ahead of time. I move the puck, and then I wait for it to come back my way. Like I'm not gonna be an extra layer off the rush. I'm not gonna get caught up ice. You know, I'm gonna eat some pucks on the penalty kill. That kind of thing. Like, you know, guys who know what they are, Reader, can have long careers.
And the national team development program, they're kind of, they're not, I hate to say pegged, but they're put in situations, say you're going to be our offensive defenseman, you're going to be our defensive defenseman, you're going to be our penalty killing defenseman, you're going to be in a position and you need to be the best at that. And that's exactly what happens. A player like Schultz gets in there. We don't maybe not see the offensive skill from a Schultz. You may not see some of the rushing, some of the power play time, because that's not his role on that team. And that is a team that you go play at 16 and 17, and you play your 2 years. The U18 World Championship is their Stanley Cup. Absolutely. And they won it again this year. They are always competitive. They've always got some great players. But you're put in a role to be successful in that role. And when you transition from there, usually straight into college, or college from there right into the National Hockey League, you understand what it's like to be on a winning team and be a winner at that program. And you take the players from those teams, they're understanding. This is what I want you to do. Fine, coach. I'll do it. I'll do it to the best of my ability.
All right, on the clock at 181, the Minnesota Wild. We'll wait for that pick. They have a couple of minutes left to go, but it doesn't seem like time is going slow at this point. We are flying here. Quick timeout, and we're back to finish up the draft live from Nashville. Welcome back to the 2023 Upper Deck NHL Draft rounds 2 through 7 here at Bridgestone Arena in Nashville. You can see team still busy making their picks here as we're past the halfway point of round number 6. On the clock right now, 186, the New Jersey Devils. But while we're away at break, Reader, I know 180, Zeb Forshfall caught your eye.
He did, and he catches your eye when he plays. Seattle's got a nice player here. You think of Seattle, you think of water. When you think of talk water and hockey, I always think of water bugs. 5'9", this guy is a water bug. He buzzes around the ice. He's got exceptional hockey IQ. He sees the ice so well. Had a fantastic U18 at 8 points in the 7 games. Also had 5 points in the 2022 Olympia Gretzky Cup, where 5 games played in there. It's a point-a-game guy. He was the captain of his U20 team in Skellefteå, Sweden, and he is a leader, reliable, hard-working team player. That pretty much sums up what you're going to get at Fjorsfjell. And one thing about the Swedish players, the Finnish players, the team players, you have to learn a 200-foot game. And even at 5'9", he plays both ends of the rink. But when we watched this team play at the U8 teams, he was very noticeable, not because of his size, being the water bug syndrome to all over the ice, but man, he sees the ice well. He makes players around him better, which is always a good trait.
All right, the Devils taking Daniil Karpovich at 186, a defenseman out of the NHL over in Russia. Played all of his hockey in Belarus until moving to the MHL this past season. 187, Jeremy Hansel.
The Boston Bruins.
I don't know if he has a brother named Gretel, but we got Hansel there to the Avs at 187.
You know, I should have rolled back the tape here. Nathaniel Day at 184. You know, guys, we had that conversation a little bit early on about what happens second half of the year. Well, Day is one of those guys for Flint who had a great second half, especially down the stretch. I think he was like 13-2-1, and then propelled Flint into the playoffs in the Ontario Hockey League. And that stretch of games, I think, really brought the attention of scouts. So it's nice to see that a guy has a stretch like that. Second half goes well for him. Ends up getting drafted by the Edmonton Oilers. Pretty cool stuff for Nathaniel Day.
Getting back to Jeremy Hansel, a left shot defenseman, played in Seattle. 6'1", 196, just taken by the Avs. This is a very smart and reliable player on the back end. He was a plus 70, 6th best in a single season, WHL, since they've been tracking that stat. A plus 70 since 1990 was since they've been tracking it. A plus 26 in the postseason. He gets it done 5-on-5. Yes, he was on a good team, but those are absolutely crazy numbers. 48 points in 66 games. Plays in all 3 zones. Moved the puck extremely well. And with Jeremy Hansel, another 2003 birthday. This is a player that has been passed over in not only 1 draft, but in 2 drafts. And his development just flourished this year on a very good team in Seattle. And there's a player that the Colorado Avalanche go, you know what, we like you a lot. We can bring you right in, put you right in the system. And, you know, congratulations to Jeremy Hansel. That's going through 2 drafts, and now he's with the Avs.
It was worth the wait. At 188, the Boston Bruins, Ryan Walsh, centerman out of Cedar Rapids in the USHL, has 79 points, set a Cedar Rapids franchise record for the most in a single season. 189, Angus McDonald. Dallas Stars. Reader, I know you're familiar with that organization and familiar with Angus?
Angus McDonell had a tremendous season. This young man had 29 goals in 64 with Mississauga. Coach James Richmond, Coach GM, is a great coach and mentor to a lot of young guys. He's got a very good team coming up in Mississauga. He was playing, McDonell was playing in Sarnia. He came over with Porter Martone in a deal for Luca Del Bellus, and these two young guys really took off. At the U18s, they were tremendous. McDonell more in that penalty-killing role, but he can score goals. But when the team that, another player that you can put him in a role on a team, and he's just going to excel at that role. He's got high energy at 5'9", 180. Another player that doesn't play on the perimeter. He plays through traffic, gets to the scoring areas. And I honestly really thought that McDonell might go a little bit earlier. I figured he'd be in like maybe a 4th round pick. But you know what? At 5'9", maybe it scared some teams. But good for Dallas to take a chance in the 6th round of McDonell. Big fan.
So, some of the things you look at there, Reader, obviously the offense was nice, but 92 pimps. Like, this kid is involved.
Yeah.
He's almost got that little man syndrome where you think I'm not going to be hard to play against? Just watch me. And he did that at the Worlds, too. He was barking. I was sitting up behind the net there, and there was a little bit of scrum right below me there in Switzerland. And he's just right in the grill of his opponent. You love those guys, right? Little rat mentality. I like it.
Speaking of teammate, Porter Martone. Oh, look out for him for next year.
They were good at the U18s. They were in a line together. Yes, very good. But look out for Mississauga next year.
At 190, Michael Emerson, drafted by the Carolina Hurricanes. This was another kid that was passed over in last year's draft, so congrats to him. Worth the wait. He gets picked this year in round number 6. And then at 191, Florida Panthers selecting Luke Coughlin, defenseman out of Rimouski in the queue. Two of his favorite NHL defensemen to watch, Torrey Krug and Morgan Riley. So,
what's
that'll give you a
interesting
sense of the way he likes to play.
Yes. What's interesting here, guys, is we're still feeling the effects of the pandemic. I mean, don't get yourselves wrong here. Whether it was in minor hockey or your draft -2 year, it still wasn't the perfect scenario when it comes to the pandemic. And so some of these guys that have been through the draft once or twice before are getting caught up on their development. And I think that speaks to part of the reason as to why we're seeing those players who are in their 2nd and 3rd year of eligibility, along with the reasons we've discussed previously. But I do believe the pandemic has also had an impact there.
All right, we're on to round number 7 here, 193. Jason, I know at 192, Tuomas Ouranen, a right winger out of the Finnish Junior League.
Yeah, he's an interesting player. I mean, he pretty much played, I have to say, to the same identity throughout the course of the entire season. Not a lot changed. I was looking back on my scouting reports heading into the draft, and what I like about this kid, I gave him 8s across the board in his skating. So explosiveness, separation, and agility. So that part really was my kind of launching pad to see if I could have more interest in him. And I do. I think he's got a high motor. Oh, they use the same words right there. High motor. I like that he skates. He's got some energy. In and out offense. We'll see where that goes. But, hey, I have him as a 4th line forward on projection, a compete guy at the bottom of the lineup.
See, high motor. So we'll see how that motor runs in the years to come. All right, round number 7 officially underway right now. The Tampa Bay Lightning on the clock. We'll take a timeout. We'll be back to wrap up the final 32 picks here in the 2023 NHL Draft.
Welcome back. The 7th round of the 2023 NHL Draft is officially underway here in Nashville, Tennessee. We are not hanging out on Broadway. We are hanging out on the draft floor here at the draft, and we're about to talk to Tom Fitzgerald, so let's take a look at some notable acquisitions since 2021. And in this week in particular, Tom, you have been a busy guy. Busy and successful in getting some of these items on your to-do list done. The big ones, of course, signing Timo Meier to a nice big extension, and then acquiring Tyler Toffoli as well in a trade. I'm going to start with Tyler Toffoli because I saw some interviews that you did yesterday talking about the long-term future of Tyler Toffoli and not, acquiring a player unless you wanted them to be around for a little while. What kind of conversations have you had with him about that?
Well, again, one, what he does on the ice is the most important thing to us. I hear he's a fantastic human being.
Mm-hmm.
That's second with us. We want good people. We want people who want to be in New Jersey. The second part, well, that'll take care of itself. Just like Eric Holla. just like Timo Meyer. You know, these guys come in, see what we're all about, live in the area, the travel, great restaurants at your fingertips, and not to mention, really good team.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Absolutely. You've built a terrific team. You had a great season this year. And, you know, you add a guy like Toffoli, as Jackie points out. I mean, he's a really talented player, can help fill out your top six, can score, and he's got experience in big moments, right? But let me ask you about the discussion with Timo Meyer, because that was one of those things we weren't sure if it was going to drag on, right? I'm sure you and you got him even. It was like, you know, you had confidence you could get it done, but you're never 100% sure. How did that go over the last couple of weeks till finally getting it figured out?
Well, his agent, Claude Lemieux, he was a pleasure to work with.
Okay.
You know, deal making is something that you need a partner,
Yeah.
and you need to negotiate with a partner. The most important thing was Timo really wanted to be in New Jersey.
Yeah.
We really wanted Timo in New Jersey. I really have to tip my hat to our ownership group, led by David Blitzer and Josh Harris. Like, they've given me the resources to actually put this team together the way we see it as a hockey operations group. So, you know, we got a lot of good people in our operations that we've got great processes going on to make proper decisions. But you need the backing of your ownership. But again, I really love New Jersey.
Yeah.
And I think people who don't know New Jersey have to experience it to understand that passion that we have as an organization.
Fair enough. Well, it's safe to say it's been a busy week. You've got another pick coming up here in the 7th round. Take us sort of inside what it is like at the draft table. Like, what really goes on as you get deeper into the draft and the picks become, I would imagine, maybe not harder might be a dramatic word, but just kind of how the day progresses at the draft table.
Again, the work that our amateur staff does, the travel, the passion they have for players, the debates that they have, arguments at times. That's all I'm asking. I want a group that pushes each other. I want a group that is...
You want passion.
And you know what? They have to have a growth mindset. They want to be able to get better. We all don't know everything. You know, so we're an organization that believes in that development. But you know what? We break it down into certain groups. The passion levels, impact type players, elite players. And you're right. As you go through the draft and come into the later rounds, I'm looking for lottery tickets. That's what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
So I just tell them, tell me who's got the highest ceiling. That's what I want.
Yeah. Let me ask you now. We got the free agent window opening up. It's only like in hours. It seems like a couple days away, right? I mean, it's been a busy week with the awards, and you guys were invested there, and then here at the draft, signing guys. What's on the table? What's left? You got some cap room to play with. What are some of the things that maybe you're looking at? Obviously, there's been a lot of discussion about goaltenders, but what are you thinking about over the next couple of days?
Really to round out our group, you know, that maybe talking to our RFAs. Maybe we're looking for something different, you know, on the wings. Maybe right now we have 7 defensemen, including Nemec. Is he going to be ready? I don't have the answer. So I've got to be prepared for that. Are we going out and getting somebody? We'll start tomorrow with our group and go through really the checklist of things we really want to accomplish.
You know, it's so cliche to say this, but, you know, we talk all the time about one step at a time, right? The New Jersey Devils took such a huge step last year. What does the next step look like in terms of when the next regular season gets underway?
We all know what the next step is. Expectations, standards
have all gone up.
They've all gone up. They skyrocketed, and that's the fun part. You know, it wasn't fun selling off players for future assets, but that had to be done to get to the point we're at today. We had to draft well and build a core of young players to build around, and then have more assets to actually surround them. But I go back to ownership, who's given me the resources to go out and get a Dougie Hamilton, to re-sign a Timo Meyer. And it's up to them. Like, this is their fraternity. You know, they want to recruit players and tell them how great we are. Even better.
What do you think your guys learned from the playoffs this year? Young players, first playoff for many of them. What do you think they learned?
It's hard to win a Stanley Cup.
Yeah.
You know, every team goes into the season wanting to win the Stanley Cup. You got to go 4 rounds, 4 hard rounds. We went 2 hard rounds. 2 more.
Go ahead,
Sam. So, again, surrounding these kids, and I say kids, they're young men with winning pedigree. It starts with Palat, now Toffoli. Like, these guys understand what it takes to win, and they can pass it on. The culture that we're building, to me, I leave it up to the players. It's their room. You know, what you permit is what you promote. So Culture's a big thing for us.
All right, I like that. Great answer.
Yeah.
Tom, thank you for hopping on
Thanks
the desk
so
with us.
much.
We really appreciate the time.
Thank you.
Enjoy the rest of the draft and free agency right around the corner as well. We appreciate the time.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to step aside for a quick timeout here, but we are making our way through the 7th round of the 2023 NHL Draft here in Nashville. We'll be right back.
Joseph selecting Igor Rimashevsky.
Welcome back to the 2023 Upper Deck NHL Draft, rounds 2 through 7. Rounds 2 through 6 are done. We are halfway through round number 7. Still a couple of kids in attendance here, hoping that their name gets called in the final couple of picks here. A couple of names going off the board and some loud cheers still in attendance. Just trying to keep her awake at this point. Same with Reader and Sam here up on the desk, but a little coffee, that'll kick in in a couple of minutes.
I'm ready to rock. Let's go.
I know, you're always ready to rock.
Go.
Hey, Reader, a couple of names that we did see go off the board here in round 7 while we're at break. David Klee, Luke Middlestat. We know those last names, don't we?
Yeah, and even Matteo Mann. That's Trent Mann's son. David Klee is Ken Klee's son. Luke Middlestat is brother Casey Middlestat. So it's bloodlines. And you know, for David Klee, Ken Klee was drafted by Washington, I think, in the 9th round. Played almost 1,000 games in the National Hockey League, and you know, it's good to see.
And Matteo Mann. So his dad Trent is assistant general manager / head scout with the Ottawa Senators, and a guy who's 6'6", 230. He is a rig. Straight line skating's decent. Agility probably needs a little bit of work. Played in Chicoutimi, picked up 5 assists this year. No doubt he's that shutdown type of guy. So you're looking at 45 games played, a little suspension in the playoffs, New Year's Eve, baby. All right, but the fact is, he's been here once already. Back in 2016, he was a runner for the Ottawa Senators. While his dad was making all the picks, he was running around grabbing coffee for everybody.
Go ahead, Ottawa.
Is that what the scouting was? Footwork was really good? Was it said footwork really good? That was
what he was.
We're going to get the coffee. I'm reading the scouting report. You're talking about him. He's a runner for the Ottawa Senators. That's pretty cool, though. That's really cool. Yeah, that's nice. And you know what? I think the pressure from not being in the organization that your dad is in is probably helpful. Also look at the combine. So dad left the room. I mean, they interviewed him. Ottawa interviewed him. Dad left the room so that they could just go about their business without that sort of influence or awkward feeling in the room. And I love the fact that you go to an organization where you got to cut your own cloth, and there's no worry about having bias because your dad is the assistant general manager.
Jason, how about pick 202 by the St. Louis Blues?
St. Louis has had a fantastic couple of days, and they're taking a swing here with the Russian player Nikita Susiev. I project him to be a 13th forward, but he's a type of guy that can't play in the middle of your lineup if he does make your roster. He's got to play in your top 9 at worst. Mostly a motion player. When he does have the puck on his stick, you know, he protects it well, makes plays along the wall, and he can spin off checks. He's one of those guys. In motion and open ice, average plus skater, I would say. Detail, as you know, the really skilled Russian guys, Reader, their detail ranges wildly, right? So there's a lot of risk reward in his game, but it's worth the swing for St. Louis at this stage.
Next order selection.
Love those risk reward players. You've got all sorts of skill, and all you need is one to pan out in the late picks, and you've got yourself a pretty good offensive player.
Dennis Goodbog going at 209 to the New York Islanders as we make our way here through the final half of round number 7. Reader, how do you categorize this year's draft? Has there a team that really stood out to you that has impressed you over the course of the last 48 hours?
You know, I think Philadelphia, for me, as I look at Matteo Mann, we talked about Matteo Mann, but I mean, you think in the first round they take a flyer with Mishkov, and in their 7th round they're taking a 6'6" Matteo Mann, and you know they're changing the culture in Philadelphia, and to change the culture, you've got to take some swings at things, and you've got to be pretty bold and brass in a few things that you do, and I think Philadelphia's done that for me.
All right, Sam, at 210, Connor Levis from the Kamloops Blazers, right winger. He's going to the Winnipeg Jets.
Yeah, 6'1", 190-pound right shot guy. A late 04 birthday from Vancouver. Is playing with the Kamloops Blazers. Had the opportunity to play in the Memorial Cup. And a good finish to the season with 19 points in his final 13 games. He had a 6-game goal streak going back to March. Picked up a couple of points for the Blazers in the Memorial Cup. A point per game over there, 4 games. A little bit of a disappointing end to the season for the Blazers, who got beat out in round 3, had to wait around a little while, and then finally bowed out in the Memorial Cup. So guy's got a little bit of grit to his game. Smart guy, scholastic player of the year. Be interested to see what Connor Levis is able to do here.
Something I just want to point out to you guys just from a scouting perspective here is you've seen a couple of guys like Matteo Mann and Axel Herdig go off the board here late. These are the picks that the analytics community absolutely detests when we make it to the table because they fit into the category of defensive defensemen, and they really don't enjoy that. But the reality is when you do become a playoff team, guys like Luke Shen and all these other guys, you're looking for them, right, when you become playoff contenders. And that's exactly what Axel Hertig is as well. He's a big body, no flash and dash to his game whatsoever. Average skater. He's got to get another 15 points out of his stride to make it, but leans on guys. He's got range. He knows what he is. Gets the puck, chips it to space. Off they go somewhere else.
Ethan Hay. Go ahead.
Really excited about Ethan Hay here. This is a guy who plays for Flint. Was talking to Ted Dent last week about him, the head coach, and now not the general manager, but was up until this year. This is a straight line player. He's got a ton of speed. He's hugely responsible. And I think about where Tampa is and what they've done in the past. I think about Rob Credimura as a scout there who looks after Ontario and what they've done with their players. They identify a certain characteristic in a certain player and a player type, and they go after that player. Like Anthony Cirelli, when you saw him, he was so slight, but he was a hugely responsible player. I think Hay works along those same sort of lines. He's a physical specimen. You know he's going to put the work in. Pretty interesting to see that he ends up with the Tampa Bay Lightning here at pick 211.
At 212, Zachariah Wisdom for the Seattle Kraken, right winger out of Cedar Rapids in the USHL. He was passed over in last year's draft. Older brother Zaid, a fourth-round pick of the Flyers back in 2020.
I haven't checked the numbers, Sammy, but the Flint Firebirds have had a heck of a 2 days.
Yes, they have. Yeah. We've
Nathaniel
Day, the goalie.
Yes,
yeah.
and he's
Petrie.
from Flint, yes.
Yeah.
And that just goes to show that if you run a quality program, I don't care what league you're in, and you provide stability to youthful players, you can develop players that's good for everybody involved.
And that's just it. They kind of sit under the radar in the Ontario Hockey League. You know, they had some issues with the past, but now they've got a guy who's got a lot of experience as a head coach in Ted Dent there. They've started to make some changes in their hockey ops department to split the duties of head coach and general manager, which I believe is absolutely essential. And when you talk about developing players, and you're thinking about the Petries and the Hayes and the goaltender, really good stuff coming out of Flint right now.
Great facility, too. If anybody wants to get on the tour and go watch a game, don't underestimate Flint. They got a great job in that arena. It's a real nice spot.
James Clark going to the Wild here at 213, left winger out of Green Bay in the USHL, committed to the University of Minnesota. So he's got to be thrilled at the team that selected him here at pick 213 in round number 7. Take a look at the scouting report here. Sneaky release and budding offensive skill set. Extremely motivated and a natural leader. 23 points in the final 23 games of the USHL
There you go. Those late looks, they're pretty important. I mean, we've seen a lot of players. I mean, I take all of Team Sweden, really, and think about their end to the year at the under-18s. We saw 6 go in the first round, largely because they really performed well at that under-18s. Now, you're not going to just put it all in one tournament, obviously, but that recency bias is a nice thing to have if you're a player, and something you got to be a little bit leery of if you're a scout.
And that's the tough thing, is to wash that away when you see a guy and you're like, wow.
Yeah.
And that's the one thing about the U18s. It's the last tournament for a lot of players who don't play in their whether it's CHL playoffs or wherever you're done, and all of a sudden you get there and you have a big tournament that can really take you to another level. And we've seen it. You said it. We've seen it. Sweden having a great tournament, getting to the final, and almost winning that, losing in overtime. Then how many players from that team have been drafted? Very responsible.
I can tell you from experience, it makes for fascinating arguments in your draft room. Because,
I bet.
Well, because at the beginning of the summer, the three of us were there at the Holinka. We see a kid who just, like Edward Chalet, he was outstanding, right, at the Holinka.
Yes.
And then he goes away a little bit and he comes back. So you're going to have a scout who's going to reference that great tournament in August. And if I argue with him, well, he didn't end the season very well, he's going to counter that by saying, well, your guy you're arguing with me just had a great under-18, so what's the difference? So it's a marathon that you have to take their entire body of work. But you're absolutely right. The lasting impression is that last tournament sticks with you.
Tough part for Shallow was that he he played against men all year and hardly didn't play a lot.
Yeah.
He didn't get the minutes that he needed to play. And all of a sudden he got the tournament and he wasn't in game shape. And now all of a sudden you're not in game shape because you're not playing your regular minutes. You're used to playing that 10 to 12 minutes. Now all of a sudden you put into 18 minutes, 20 minutes and expected to be more responsible. It actually can hurt you because I'm a huge fan of Sauer. I was surprised he didn't go higher, but I think that might have been the knock against him, and it wasn't his fault because he played with men all year. But if he had played in a junior team, he would have been playing 20 minutes a game.
Yeah, and that's interesting. And there's some other guys like Sandin Pellikka played 114 games.
Can you imagine 114 games?
When do you practice?
My goodness.
That's the thing with the Europeans, guys. They play on 3-4 different teams.
Yeah,
they're in the SHL, they're in the J20, the J18. They play in the national team events. Like 114 games. That's a Stanley Cup. That's more than a Stanley Cup.
That's more. Yes, that's more.
Casper Nasson going to the Bruins at 214. Nicholas Van Tassel to the Ottawa Senators, a pick after that. And Matt Capone out of Merrimack College in Hockey East to the Edmonton Oilers at 216. Capone passed over in the NHL Draft in both 2021 and 2022. So congrats to Capone on finally getting selected here by the Edmonton Oilers. Tied for the most goals on Merrimack this past season with 14. A responsible player that is very unselfish, versatile, has good motor, finishes his hits. He's a strong skater. So we're about to wrap up round number 7 here, but they just made an announcement inside the building.
I thought I heard
Did you hear that?
Yes,
yeah.
I did.
Yeah, well, you guys were just analyzing the picks. They're analyzing the weather outside, severe weather. So we may be going around 10, 11, 12 here this year. I don't know.
Well, they did give us a bottle of bourbon, didn't they?
From Ilvis Jr.
I had one in my gift bag.
Yeah. Hey, I'll tell you what, Nashville knows how to get to the media's heart. Just provide a bottle of Jack.
Yeah. Yeah, there we go. There's Yarvente. We're talking about him a little bit earlier.
We were. Yeah. Here's another player with Yarvente.
For his last trade as the general manager of the Nashville Predators, David Poile is trading Nashville's 7th round pick in 2024 to the New Jersey Devils and their current general manager, Tom Fitzgerald, who was the first ever captain in the history of the Nashville Predators, for pick number 218.
That
cool. Means that Nashville is on the clock.
That is really cool. What a gesture right there. Like, I love that.
That's a career coming full circle, right?
Yeah, the hockey world's very small. The connections, it's amazing how it all comes around.
This isn't just a hockey trade. This is a moment for these gentlemen here. Trotzy was the first coach here with Fitzy back in the day, and of course David's been a staple here. And I was fortunate to work here in Nashville under David and develop a relationship with Trotzy, and I don't know if they get any more classy than those two gentlemen in that picture, guys.
What a cool move. I love that. I think that's just a great thing for David Poile to be able to get back up in front of the home crowd one last time, make that final selection, and just put a bow on what's been an unbelievable career.
And when you look at what Poile has done in his final draft, how has he left the Nashville Predators moving forward? How do you guys think? Pretty strong situation?
Amazing career.
Let's listen.
And thank him for everything that he's done for all of us at this table and throughout the organization. Thanks, Fitzy, for the pick here in the 7th round. And David, we'd like you to make the selection.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Bill Daly, the National Hockey League. Thank you for the game of hockey for such a wonderful life. I would never want to change anything. So for my last pick of all time, this is the player, Aiden Fink from Brooks. Thanks, everybody.
Standing ovation here inside Bridgestone for David Poile and his final pick. And what a run it was as general manager. The winningest general manager in NHL history.
Thousands and thousands of games. That's amazing stuff. You have to have the respect for a guy. No blemishes on the record. Everyone you talk to talks about a class guy. JB, you had the opportunity to work for him. What a nice dedication here.
And it's remarkable. You see so many players changed teams, coaches moved teams, management moved teams. David Poyle's had 2 teams. He's national.
Yeah, how about that?
Absolutely remarkable.
And if you're Aiden Fink, that's a pretty cool moment, right?
Next selection belongs to the Colorado Avalanche.
I think we should touch on Järventie, give him some love here too, Reader, because that's an interesting pick, isn't it, in the 7th round?
Yeah, I like Järventie. He's 5'10", 167. He's got some weight to put on. Very skilled offensively, and again, he's got a motor that just doesn't quit. He's go, 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 and you can see right in the bottom, plays bigger than he is, and that says a lot about a player. He's got a very high compete level, and his speed is really what sets him apart. When there's a loose puck and it's open ice, Järventie has got that speed that he can absolutely get to those loose pucks, and he's fearless. You see in this play, this is in a battle. He plays in the U18s. He is a player that goes into the tough areas, the areas you don't want to go to, and a lot of players have to get to. Not being a big guy at 167, he puts some weight on that 5'10" frame. I think Järventie could be a real steal for the Penguins.
I think that one of my takeaways, guys, with some of these, and for some of our viewers, kids that are watching out there, guys like Gavin Brindley, Emily Järventie, the smaller guys in stature, Reader couldn't have said it any better. You have to find a way to get under checks, go to traffic, and be aggressive. Be hard to play against. Don't just be a perimeter guy. Go to those hard areas. Give us a reason to like you beyond just your skill set.
Well, I'll give you an example. Okay, let's look at the Arizona Coyotes. Since they started this draft, okay, Arizona has made 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 picks. Not one of them is under 6 foot. In 12 picks. So think about that. So if you're a smaller player, you have to find that dynamic element and that ability to do the things you talked about. Because there are teams that might not even be looking at you all at all, and now your opportunity shrinks. To really take advantage of what's given to you and work hard to do some of the things that maybe others don't want to do.
Los Angeles, another team that drafts big players. Big players by Los Angeles as well. But absolutely right. I mean, it's, you have to force general managers, coach, you have to force heads to turn because sometimes your stat sheet is he's slight. It's not tall. You know what? It's what you do on the ice that really matters. If you can't do a pull-up, I've heard players couldn't do pull-ups at the combine, and that seemed
one
to
of them
work.
just played in the Cup final.
It seemed to work out all right. It doesn't matter how many, how fast you can run, how many pull-ups you can do, how many push-ups you can do. It matters what you do on the ice. And at the end of the day, that's what teams want. Teams want guys who compete and who play the game. And you always hear it the right way, and that's really the main thing when you're drafting, and especially when you're drafting 6th, 7th round. I want these guys who are going to compete, and we'll help them develop.
Romero Skjedlika, Christian Kostadinsky, and most recently at 221, Sebastian Bradshaw for the Dallas Stars as we await the final 3 picks here of round 7 to conclude our 2023 NHL entry draft.
Do you think Carolina trades it back?
I don't know, but they've kept us waiting all day long, every time. They got under the 60-second mark.
I keep coming back to this every year, right around this range, but this is don't discount this pick. I mean, Paul Gallagher. Yep. Paul Gallagher worked for us in Florida out there in Halifax, did a heck of a job. Mackenzie Weegar was right in this area here. He's had a pretty good career, so anybody that's out there as a 7th round pick, put in the work. You never know what's going to happen out there.
It's not a throwaway pick. I mean, that's pretty obvious to Carolina that they're taking the time, they're scouring their notes, and they're going through their list, and they're making sure that they get this thing right. They're not throwing the pick away.
There are plenty of teams that would like to have 8, 9 rounds.
Yeah,
like there are teams that say, you know what, I'd like to have a couple more. And that the scouts would love to have. What do we have? 12 back in the day.
Back in the day,
12 to 16 rounds.
What about you as the analyst today? You want to keep going?
No, I'm happy with 7 rounds. Hey, this is nothing compared to where we were when we were sitting in studio through COVID. We were 8-hour live days.
8-hour round 1.
And teams were picking, and I loved it when my ex-teammates who are now in management are texting me, well, I'm just ready to go out and have dinner. I'm like, it's the 5th round. What do you mean? Yeah, we don't have a pick for another 2 rounds. Hey. That was an hour and a half. You go to dinner and come back.
It was going so long. We had guys leaving for Europe in the middle of that show.
This is great. I mean,
listen, my kids, Kian and Caden, and my wife, Michelle, they're going to tell you that I'm not a technology guy. And it's partly a science because the more I know, then they're going to expect me to do it the next time, right? So it's a little bit of science.
Hey, we got Mike Kelly.
We should do fax machine stuff in this league.
Yeah?
Well, I know what a fax machine is.
What is that? No, I'm just kidding.
Exactly.
Let's send it down to. Let's fax things down to Mike Kelly. He's back on the draft floor. I think he's still down there, Mike.
Still hanging out. I'm here. Thanks, fellas. As we know, Carolina, as you mentioned, likes to take their full time. So I'll throw one player in the mix, hasn't gone yet, who I had, as kind of a mid-round guy, and that's Tomaso DeLuca. He's an undersized center, played in Spokane for the Chiefs this past season, a Swiss guy. Look, when we're talking about these types of players, you're taking a swing and you're hoping that maybe something can develop in that sense. But he's a guy that can make people miss. And again, he's not 6+ feet, but he battles. He's competitive. He's feisty. You look at his trend line. It dipped a little bit towards the end of the season. Maybe that's why there's some hesitation in drafting the player at this point. But we're talking about pick number 222, 23, 24 right now. If it were me, I'd roll the dice. I'd take a look at this guy.
All right, well, I'm taking a look at you off camera here. And what happened to your co-hosts? Where'd they go? EJ and Jackie.
Oh, they're done.
Just skedaddled.
They're down there talking with everybody.
Right? Look at you. You're Mr.
Schmoozing with everybody.
Come on.
Talking about technology, there's EJ in the background, just working the phone.
Look at him, he can't hear us. They're looking to see if there's more trades coming. They're still doing the work.
He's got his
down there with the people.
He's got his
He's trying to book an earlier flight.
He's going to the buffet. Who's kidding him? He's going to the buffet.
Oh,
What do they got, Thursday Night Raw? Where's Jack?
Oh, yeah. No, he's Google mapping how to get to Tootsie's right now. EJ Raddick. Love it. Look at him. There he is. EJ, Jackie, and Lindsay, our field producer on the ground here. Look, it doesn't happen with a lot of the people behind the scenes here. We've got a great cast and crew here at the NHL Network, both here and in our studios back in Secaucus, so we appreciate all their hard work. Hey, here we go, Carolina.
From Dynamo Minsk, Belarus, Yegor Vilmakin.
Carolina selected Yegor Vilmakin. And
all right, so it took some time. But in comes the pick at 222, Igor Vilmakin. Next up, Pittsburgh at 223.
I don't know if we're going to see the clock go to zeros here.
From a GM's perspective, you get to this point. We get a day off tomorrow, and then all of a sudden, free agency, July 1. What does this schedule look like? When do you turn the attention? How much prep is already done? Like, how does that stack up as far as priorities?
From Jokerit in Finland, Kalle Kangas.
So every team's different. Some teams don't bring their pro scouting staff to the draft. Others do. We did, and we would run a series of pro meetings in conjunction with what was going on the amateur side. So Dale and his people would kind of bounce back and forth so that when we hit free agency out of here, they're prepared for that development camp shortly thereafter. But certainly the strategy is a little bit different for every team.
All right, Kalle Kangas, 223, and you have the Stanley Cup champions, Vegas Golden Knights, on the clock to round out our 2023 NHL Draft. We'll wait for the official announcement here. But while we do that, you can see the backpacks are going on.
Where are you going? We got the warning. Stay put, fellas.
No. It was going to be a mad dash to Broadway.
Yeah.
And now we're staying put here inside Bridgestone Arena.
Hold on, ladies and gentlemen.
While we got a break here just at the end, I got to give a shout out to somebody on our staff that I've got to know the last couple of years, Lawrence Goldstein. The amount of work, the amount of work this guy puts into our draft packets and the amount of player information. I've been around the league a long, long time, and I would find it hard to believe there's anybody that does a better job. So I want to give him a shout out. I think he just excellent work.
Well said. Well said. First star certainly every year for us here at the NHL Network. Heck, he could be on this set and just doing this thing.
Kidding. I was
doing this
say,
thing by himself.
Yeah, he knows. Like there are plenty of players, and the information that LG gets, and the scouts and the people he talks to, it's remarkable.
Work, buddy.
Absolutely remarkable. The
and when you say
together.
talks to, it's not just Google searching. This guy's on the phone hours at a time speaking to people in those organizations and the scouts that he knows, and it is the real deal. And this guy puts in hours upon hours behind the scenes to help us put on what we do here for day 2 of the draft. He hates that we're talking about him right now, but we appreciate him nonetheless.
Thanks, buddy.
Oh, we're hearing possible trade coming down the pipe. We might get some booze in the building. 224.
Possible thunder is what I'm hearing.
Here's some rumbling going on. That's okay. We're not going anywhere.
That's the hockey god saying, let's get after it.
All right, we wait. Yeah, there's another boomer in the building.
The hockey guys don't want David to call it a career yet. They're just telling him.
Yeah, hang in for a bit. Go hang with your buddies for a little bit. Now you think about the Vegas Golden Knights, just one drafted player, one player that they drafted on their team in Nick Hague. So obviously going about winning the Stanley Cup in a much different manner, but obviously still very successful.
Wasn't it recently that we had it was the final pick of day 2 and the team called a timeout? Didn't that happen?
Hold on, that was us. That was us. It was Florida.
It was Florida.
2016.
Oh.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, we're getting the trade. Let's listen.
Thanks for bringing it up again.
Sorry, Jason.
The Vegas Golden Knights have traded the final pick in the 2023 NHL Draft to the Columbus Blue Jackets. So this is pick number 224 to Columbus for a 7th-round pick in 2024, which means Columbus will now have the final selection in the 2023 NHL Draft.
All right, so the Vegas Golden Knights trading away the last pick at 224 to Columbus in exchange for a 7th-round pick coming up in 2024. So Columbus now on the clock.
Go down and scour the floor and maybe collect a couple of those books.
Go ahead, Columbus.
From Quebec Major Junior League, Drummondville, Tyler Peddle.
That's a good
Columbus
pick.
Blue Jackets have selected
That is a good
I'm so
pick.
happy for that guy.
And he's here. How cool is that?
Oh, yeah. Well, he was a projected guy early on in the year. I mean, he started with eight goals in his first 9 games with Drummondville a couple of years ago, and then really had some difficulty finding that touch after that. You see his dad, Brad, to his left there, head coach of CIS hockey in the Atlantic Canada, and man, that has got to be such a relief to be sitting there. I thought he would have gone earlier for sure, but good on Ty, sticking it out. Now it's all in your court, buddy.
Tyler Peddle, the last pick at 224 to the Columbus Blue Jackets. Speaking of sticking it out, we appreciate you sticking it out with us. We'll take one final break here from Bridgestone Arena in Nashville. We'll be back to put a bow on the 2023 NHL Entry Draft next.
The 2023 Upper Deck NHL Draft is here. Scan the QR code on your screen to collect a piece of history with this free digital card set featuring some of your favorite #1 draft picks. Get yours today, only on UpperDeckEPAC.com.
Welcome back inside Bridgestone Arena here as we conclude the NHL Entry Draft from Nashville. What a day it was. What a week it was with the awards and the draft at the same location for the first time in NHL history, and it certainly made for a lot of fun. It was a fun day. Always is a fun day with you guys. Jason, before we say goodbye, what were your final thoughts, your takeaways from day number 2?
Well, a couple of notes. I thought Philadelphia was interesting. They went shopping in the London Knights shopping cart, if you will. They took Bonk in the first round and then Denver Barkey in the 3rd round today. So that was interesting. They're going to have their development people living in London part-time for sure to look after those prospects. The other thing that I took notice of, guys, was that the Nashville Predators reinvested a lot of the draft capital that they accumulated last year in Montreal. So they came here hosting the draft, a lot of picks. They kicked it down the road a little bit more, picked up an extra 3rd, 4th, and 6th for 2024. We're going to come back and congregate next year. The 2024 draft is elite as well.
Reader.
Matvei Michkov going to Philadelphia. I really like what Danny Briere did. Keith Jones, they took a bold move and a bold risk with Michkov. Not expected to be here for another 3 years, 2026, when his contract runs out. He's a heck of a player. Could be a dominant player in the National Hockey League, and I like what they did.
Sammy?
Well, I'm talking about Connor Bedard. It's his draft. It's his coronation. Now we get to see what he can do in the National Hockey League. But aside from that, I'm looking at the Arizona Coyotes. They shook up the board on day 1, going with Dmitry Simashev at number 6. They stayed true to the course. Daniil Boot at number 12. Of all their 12 picks, none of them below 6 feet, and only one of them at 6 foot. Everyone's 6'2" or above. 3 goalies, 3 defensemen, heavy reliance on Russia, especially early. Really interesting stuff.
All right. Always great stuff from you guys. We always appreciate it. Look forward to doing it again next year. But for this year, we're going to say goodbye from Bridgestone Arena here in Smashville. Connor Bedard, the #1 overall pick. Maybe a surprise at #2 with Leo Carlson. Adam Fantilli goes #3. Like we said, dreams are made in this city for country music, but for today, dreams made for different reasons. On the ice, the next step towards the ultimate goal of making the NHL. For all of us here at the NHL Network, thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next time.